always a very difficult thing, especially when people don't even have enough to support themselves. So we just decided to do this $1 a day campaign. You know, $1 here, $1 there. We generally average between 700 and 1,100 people in our lives every single day, 5 days a week. So if you think about the impact, $1 a day, like, you know, a couple dollars a week. A couple of ways you can do that. You can either use my pay apps. It's probably the easiest way now until we figure out something else, but we've always been transparent with money's in and money's out. So if you'd like to donate, $1 through Cash App, $1 through Venmo, $1 through PayPal, and that goes a long way. So we'll continue to talk about that. Again, thank you all in advance. Like I said, no times are tough. We're just trying to do something different, and we're going to use this as a model. And if this works, we'll continue to do something similar in the future. So thank you very much. So today's show, well, obviously it's Antifa Friday, and you know, I think we will be remembered, the collective people will be remembered at this particular time in our nation's history, in 10 years, in 20 years, in 50 years, as to how you responded and what side you were on. Do you stand for the preservation of human rights? Do you stand for the expansion of freedoms? Do you stand for making sure that children can eat, for example? Or do you stand in support of corporate oligarchs? Do you stand in support of the billionaire class? Do you stand in support of polluters? Do you stand in the support of people saying that they don't support Middle Eastern wars and, you know, never-ending wars, and come to find out that they actually do? So that's the question, right? And we're going to kind of unpack that a little bit today. I think the first thing we should do is just let's address the TikTok ban, since it's now come down, and I think there's a lot of people are, you know, talking about it. I remember back to that in January night, a long while back. It seems like generations ago, when we were all on a live together. It was like a Saturday night, and we were just watching the clock tick down, and the app was starting to glitch. And I remember that night. So there's been an assumption. I've had the assumption all along that it wasn't going to go anywhere. Technically, it's banned. Technically, I mean, it's, you know, the issue is that the Department of Justice is just not enforcing it, right? So let's hear what Triple K Caroline, the reporter, asked this question about the ban, about the status of it. So this is her response, and we can dive into the rest. Oh, there's our daily restriction. All right. When that happens, what I've been told is that just gift like crazy, whatever you got. So we have to push back against the algorithm to make sure that we stay on the FYP. So it can just be a heart. It can just be, you know, a tiny diny, whatever it is. Just please gift. Thank you, guys. Okay. So this is Caroline Levitt when asked about the specifics related to the TikTok ban.
Decision to extend the, delay in enforcing the TikTok ban. Sure. Can you talk about how the White House understands its constitutional authority in light of the Supreme Court's decision in January that said that the president had to enforce the ban?
Sure. Well, as all of you know, because the president put it out on his Truth Social today, he did sign an executive order to extend the TikTok ban for 90 days. So in the effort to make a deal, and the White House counsel and the Department of Justice have reviewed this executive order, and I can get it for you. I think it's on our website by now. If it's not, my team will now put it up immediately. And you can read the language in that executive order. And the White House counsel's office and the Department of Justice strongly believe in the legal rationale for this executive order. They wouldn't have the president's pen hit it if they didn't. And the political reasoning for this, of course, is because the president made a promise to keep TikTok on. There are 100 million Americans who use this app. It's wildly popular. He also wants to protect Americans' data and privacy concerns on this app, and he believes we can do both things at the same time. So he's making an extension so we can get this deal done.
Okay. So really no different than the last two times that the ban was extended. So September 25th, on or around, is the next date. We'll mark that date in our calendar, which again, hopefully this will serve as a reminder to you guys to please consider subscribing at all of our various other channels, which are, like I said, we're on Blue Sky, although I don't post a lot of content over there. I just wanted to make sure I could secure the name, right? So you'll find me, FactsStillMatter, on Blue Sky, Substack, Twitch. We're going to be simulcasting on Twitch at some point, YouTube, here, elsewhere. So again, the way to address this, obviously, is going to take legislation. So they passed a law. Let me just do this real quick. Set up a new goal. Thank you guys for helping us hit that first goal to help us stay out in the FYP. We'll change it to the Diney. We'll make it official. The way to address it so that we don't have to continue to live in this, anticipation as to what's going to happen, because she's right. A lot of people's livelihoods are dependent on that. And to be honest, I put in a lot of work for this show, and it's something that's really, really important to me, and I'd love to be able to do it more. I'd love to be able to do it more full time. It's a small, tiny source of revenue now, but it's something that I think is important, and folks really appreciate what we do here. And I look at other other creators on the app who may not have the same intentions. It is what it is, but let's be real. This is an important platform for many, 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 many people. So the only way to change it would be to write a new law. So we'll see what the appetite looks like, because it's just one big lie. It's just one big push. It's just, because don't forget, Trump was the one who initially wanted to ban TikTok, and then he saw it politically advantageous. I think it was a big mistake by the Biden administration. It was something that just should never have been done. Keep in mind, though, the TikTok ban was written in legislation. It was squirreled into legislation to support our allies overseas. It becomes complicated. Anyway, you know the deal. So that is, we're now on pause. Okay, so a couple of news items that we should talk about before we get into our big topic today. It has to do with the appeals court, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Remember, the district judge had made a decision that the president's use of the National Guard violated the terms of engagement, so to speak. So there has been a response, and it was the response that I kind of expected was going to happen, but I don't know if people really truly understand the impact of what the Supreme Court or the appeals court decided. So this is what they had said. This is what he had said on True Social.
Big win in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals on the president's core power to call in the National Guard. The judges obviously realize that Gavin Newsom is incompetent and ill-prepared, but this is much bigger than Gavin, because all over the United States, if our cities and our people need protection, we are the ones to give it to them. Should state and local police be unable, for whatever reason, to get the job done. This is a great decision for our country, and we will continue to protect and defend law-abiding Americans. Congratulations to the Ninth Circuit. America is proud of you tonight.
No. So this is the full story. Appeals court lets Trump keep control of the National Guard troops deployed to LA. This is from the AP. The appeals court Thursday allowed President Trump to keep control of the National Guard troops he deployed to LA following protests over immigration raids. The decision halts a ruling from a lower court judge who found that Trump acted illegally when he activated the soldiers over opposition from California Governor Gavin Newsom. The deployment was the first by a president of a state National Guard without the governor's permission since 1965. 60 years. In its decision, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals unanimously concluded it was likely that Trump lawfully exercised his authority in federalizing control of the Guard. It said that while the presidents don't have unfettered power to seize control of the state's Guard, the Trump administration had presented enough evidence to show it had a defensible rationale for doing so, citing violent acts by protesters. The undisputed facts demonstrate that before the deployment of the National Guard, protesters pinned down several federal officers and threw concrete chunks, bottles, and liquid and other objects at the officers. Protesters also damaged federal buildings and caused the closure of at least one federal building. And a federal van was attacked by protesters who smashed in the van's windows. Oh, the federal government's interest in preventing incidents like this is significant, the court wrote. It also found that even if the federal government failed to notify the governor before federalizing the Guard, as required by law, Newsom had no power to veto the president's order. Trump celebrated the decision on Truth, which I just read to you. He wrote, all over the United States, or cities or people or need protection, blah, blah, blah. I just read that. Newsom issued a statement that expressed disappointment that the court is allowing Trump to retain control of the Guard, but he also welcomed one aspect of the decision. The court rightly rejected Trump's claim that he can do whatever he wants with the National Guard and not have to explain himself to a court. The president is not a king and is not above the law. We will press forward with our challenge to President Trump's authoritarian use of the U.S. military against citizens. The court case could have wider implications on the president's power to deploy soldiers within the United States after Trump directed immigration officials to prioritize deportations from other Democratic-run cities. This is the point. Trump, a Republican, obviously argued that the troops were necessary to restore order. Newsom, a Democrat, said the move inflamed tensions, usurped local authority, and wasted resources. The protests have since appeared to be winding down, and they have, because local law enforcement has been involved. The militant LA Police Department, but still the police department. 2 judges on the appeals panel were appointed by Trump during his first term. During oral arguments Tuesday, all 3 judges suggested that the president have wide latitude under federal law, under the federal law at issue, and the courts should be reluctant to step in. The case started when Newsom sued to block Trump's command, and he won an early victory from U.S. District Judge Charles Breyer in San Francisco. Breyer found that Trump had overstepped his legal authority, which he said only allows presidents to take control during time of rebellion or danger of a rebellion. I don't know what the court was looking at, but I don't know what that was a rebellion, but okay. The protests in LA fell far short of rebellion, wrote Breyer, who was appointed by former President Clinton and his brother to retired Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer. The Trump administration, though, argued that courts can't second-guess the president's decisions and quickly secured a temporary halt from the appeals court. The ruling means control of the California National Guard will stay in federal hands as the lawsuits continue to unfold, which means residents of LA and California expect to see the National Guard on the streets of LA indefinitely, because now we know command is now in the hands of the federal government, the president. And I know that people out in these right-wing spaces, right? I know they're already celebrating, right? I would just like you to imagine if the situation were reversed. I would just like you to imagine that President Kamala Harris decides that I've got the authority to order in the National Guard to a massive MAGA rally in Alabama. And anybody, because they deem it as rebellion, and because of that, we can just put the National Guard on streets in every red city and every red state across the country. This is the logic that we ask people to have. This is why the entire right-wing MAGA argument has always been logically inconsistent. It's now working for you because you're cheering this shit on. You just like the fact that the president has king-like powers. You like the fact that the guy you voted for acts like an authoritarian dictator. You don't ever think things through. You don't think about anything. But in particular, in this case, you don't think things through if the situation were reversed. Right? And quite frankly, if this is the game we're going to play, then fucking bring it. Then bring it. Because if people are in Los Angeles, who, yes, we had this conversation the other day, right? We defined what a riot was. We also defined what a protest was. Two things can be true. Overwhelmingly so. No, the court just agreed with the claims of disorder, TJ. So you're wrong about that. So TJ, here's for you, my guy. And everybody, TJ's back. TJ loves me. Kiss, kiss. I'm asking you to try to think about this logically. I know you're a hardcore MAGA Trump guy, but imagine if the situation were reversed. You would be losing your shit. You would say government overreach. This is why we're asking people to be consistent. So the situation in LA, we know 2 things can be true. We know that there were protests, and overwhelmingly, in fact, every single conversation, every single conversation has been just that, right? The overwhelming majority of the protests were just that, protests. People expressing their constitutional rights, protected under the Constitution, at least as it sits today on June 20th. By the way, it's solstice, so get out there and celebrate the longest day of the year. That's that side. And then it turned violent. It turned into a riot. Those things are true, but they did this comparison to what the events in LA to what happened in Philadelphia after the Eagles won the Super Bowl. And it was significantly worse in Philadelphia because people just got out of hand. You know, you throw a couple of cocktails in after your team wins something, and that's what's going to happen. So this is now what we've become. And this ruling to me is extremely scary because where now is the justification? I don't want, no matter who it is as the president, I don't want the president having these unilateral powers just to make some determination. Just if MAGA turns violent, use the guard, TJ? I'm sorry, did you say if? If MAGA turns violent, use the guard? Oh my gosh. Whew. Seriously. That's crazy. So thank you again for proving my point. Nobody should want this, right? Nobody should want a president to have that kind of power. Nobody. And this is the part that's concerning, and this is the part that I really hope people can I'm not going to say accept, but this is the issue that we now have, because the sole proprietor or determiner, sure, of what constitutes authority and or justification to call in the guard is now in the hands of the president. And I just think that that's a horrible situation. That violates. I don't know if the state of California is going to pursue this to the Supreme Court. I don't know. Like, I think we know where that's going to land, right? But it's just a weird flex for people on the right, because you guys just don't get it. Similarly with money. Similarly with the corruption that is in the White House. For years, all we heard from everybody in the pro-Trump, anti-Biden camp was the Biden crime family. Corrupt this, corrupt that. And then what you see now, you say it's nothing to see. Just be logically consistent. That's been my focus for a while now. Just be objective. Just be objective. Just be able to look at this. Just look at the situation. Like if you are, even though there was absolutely no evidence, the people on the judiciary panel and oversight in the House, but all these witnesses says there was never any charges filed. Joe Biden is free to be prosecuted now. No crimes, none of it. A lot of rumors, a lot of innuendo, a lot of paper, but no crimes. None of it. None of it. Okay? And the stories you were trying to tell are just crazy. And then meanwhile, right in front of your faces, you've got blatant corruption. Right in front of your face, a $400 million jet. Fast tracking through the tariff process and the permitting process overseas so that Trump can develop property. I mean, it far exceeds anything that you created when it came to rumors about the Biden crime family. In fact, Mike Johnson said what Biden did was under the cover of darkness. Trump's corruption's right out in the open. Just be objective. Have the same level of criticism you had regarding that towards this guy. And you guys can't. And that's the issue that we have, is you just can't be objective. No one should want the White House being used as like a flea market. Nobody should want that. Nobody should want the White House being used as a money laundering scheme. Nobody should want the president having authority to act like a dictator, unfettered. Nobody should want that. Right? So this goes back to the No Kings protests. We had roughly 3.5% of the population. And that's what it takes to sustain. There's been no government rule that's ever been able to survive consistent protests totaling 3.5% of the population. Got to keep the pressure on, whatever that is. And again, friends, there's going to be an attempt to gaslight, right? Exactly. You're right, Cass. They claim they want small government. That's exactly right. The overwhelming majority of these have been peaceful, and they will continue to be. First Amendment guarantees your right to petition your government, to be heard, to have your grievances heard, and to peacefully protest. That's your right. Don't let them tell you otherwise. And if their response is going to be to bring in the National Guard, then let them. Then let them do it. It doesn't matter. People like, don't be a Justin, don't be a TJ. They know what I'm talking about. Don't be an Andrew. Let them cheer. Let them cheer. And then imagine if the situation were reversed. And quite frankly, if that's the game we're going to play, so then the next Democrat, progressive, liberal president do the exact same fucking thing. They get out of hand in their Patriot Front frickin' mini Klan rallies, send to the National Guard, sweep them all up, put them all in a paddy wagon and drive them away, call them domestic terrorists. Seriously. I mean, why the fuck not? I don't want that, but if that's the game we're going to play, then play it. Seriously. All right, a few other things here. How do I want to do this? I think I want to get into, well, let's do a few things first. I just want to remind people who it is that we are talking about. I just want to remind folks who is the president. I want to remind people what his history is. I want to remind folks the blatant corruption, dishonesty, deceit. I want to remind everybody of that. Let me do this because I've got something glitching here. Where is it? Stand by. Everybody keep tapping and sharing. Tapping is clapping, sharing is caring, liking is loving. Where is it? Hold on. I've got something really funny to play from Jordan Klepper because it's just perfect. It kind of summarizes a lot we're talking about. All right. So just as a reminder, Trump by the numbers. At least 7 times flew on Epstein's plane that we know of. That was on the flight logs that we know of. 97 times pleaded the fifth. 34 felony convictions, 91 criminal charges, 26 sexual assault allegations, 6 bankruptcies, 5 draft deferments, 4 indictments, 2 impeachments, 2 convicted companies, 1 fake university shutdown, 1 fake charity shutdown, $25 million fraud settlement, $5 million sexual abuse verdict, $2 million fake charity abuse judgment, $93 million sexual abuse judgments, and $400+ million fraud judgment. That's the president of the United States. That's the person that his supporters still, like the sycophants that they are, will continue to support. Again, not opinion, but we know the response. People sitting in the chat say, well, it's all fake news. That's the radical left. Weaponization of government. Y'all did this. He's a patriot standing up to it. Come on. Got to stop doing that with my glasses. They're getting loose. I mean, come on, though. 7 times on Epstein's plane, 97 times he pled the fifth, 34 felony convictions, 91 criminal charges, 26 sexual assault allegations, 6 bankruptcies, 5 draft deferments, 4 indictments, 2 impeachments, 2 convicted companies, 1 fake university shutdown, 1 fake charity shutdown, $25 million fraud settlement, $5 million sexual abuse verdict, $2 million fake charity abuse judgment, $93 million sexual abuse judgments, and $400+ million fraud judgment. Come on. Come on. The lie that you've been told forever is that Trump's the answer. He's the one that's going to clean up the swamp. He brought the fucking swamp with him. I have a flash goal. Let me do this. Mods, is there anybody that can come up real quick? I know it's a little bit early, but I'm just hoping somebody could come up real quick. Is there anybody in the chat that can come up and do me a solid? Anybody? Anybody? Who's free? Is anybody free? Yeah. Well, Brooke, are you free? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but just was curious. That's okay. Let me know when you are. I appreciate that. Or anybody. What's up, chaps? I'll get you in a second, buddy. So I think it's really just important that we just keep this in perspective because the White House is not going to talk about it. The right-wing echo chamber is not going to talk about it. Although some are, like we're starting to see more and more people. We're starting to see more and more people from the right. Dave Smith, we played that audio. We're starting to see Candace Owens come out. We're starting to see Tucker push back. We're seeing all these people say enough's enough. And the whole situation with what's happening in Iran is just like, I see you, Mr. Wills. I'll get you in a second, buddy. That's part of this whole game, right? That they're now playing to try to say, okay, we've got this guy who's been telling us all these kinds of things, specifically as it relates to his beliefs on the war. Because now there's this history. Again, the internet is forever. You know, he's gone back and forth in regards to his opinions on foreign wars, right? Again, the no new war president. Okay, I mean, sure. You can say that all you want. I don't care whether or not you want to believe what the news says or what you're saying today, but you have a history. So let's dive into that a little bit here for just a second. Okay. So the question is whether or not Mr. Trump made statements during the original Gulf War about what his opinion was on the war. And you remember when he gets challenged on things, his response in the Ray Cohn school of how you deal with this kind of stuff is just to fire back, right? He meant no new wars. Okay. Right. So this is sound from the debate that he had with Hillary. And let's play this first. I'm going to take you through a couple of series of events here to kind of connect the dots based on the things that he said in the past. And then we can ask our friends on the right if they still believe that he is anti-war. So you guys can we can navigate through this and we'll get into the specifics. And then I've got an update I want to talk to you specifically about. But if at some point, if I'm out, is free, you guys could just let me know. I'd appreciate that. Okay, here we go.
Mr. Trump, a lot of these are judgment questions. You had supported the war in Iraq before the invasion. What makes your judgment?
I did not support the war in Iraq.
2002.
That is a mainstream media nonsense put out by her because she, frankly, I think the best person
Hillary.
in her campaign is mainstream media.
My question is, since you
would you like to hear?
Why is your
I was against the war. Wait a minute. I was against the war in Iraq, just so you put it out.
The record shows otherwise.
The record does not show that.
Why is your judgment?
The record shows that I'm right.
Okay, that's fine. All right, that's fine. So here is another interview. This is an interview with Anderson Cooper. Okay.
Tonight on BuzzFeed that I have not heard it. It includes an audio clip of what appears to be you on Howard Stern talking on the radio on September 11th, 2002. He asked you, "Are you for invading Iraq?" You said, "Yeah, I guess so. I wish the first time it was done correctly." Is that accurate? Do you remember saying that?
No, but I mean, I could have said that. Nobody asked me. I wasn't.
Okay, I'll get back to that in a second. Okay. Thank you, friend. So we, hi, good morning. Yes, you are. All right. We pulled a fast one on you. Yes. Because you just had a birthday.
I did.
You didn't tell anybody until it was too late. So this was part of our little plan this morning, just to make sure that everybody in our community knows how much you do for all of us and how much of a champion you are and how you would never take your flowers. So those of us here that know you want to let you know how much we love you. How much we care about you and the fact that you deserve your flowers. So everybody in the chat, there's 528 people here right now. Cabin Mom Brooke, one of our silent assassins in regards to the work that we do here.
Yeah, I prefer to be silent.
Exactly. If you guys could do me a solid and just absolutely shower her with love, send her birthday wishes, whatever gifts you've got in your toolbox, please send them our friend Brooke's way. Cabin Mom, she's at the bottom. I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all you do for us all the time. So we've been plotting to put this together for you today because we know that you would never accept it. So yes. So Eve, Moth, Sam, Olive, anything that you'd like to say about our dear friend Brooke?
I want to say that I am so thankful that I have you as a friend and have you in my life now. You are fucking amazing, Brooke, and I love you.
Oh, I love you too.
Y'all do not
We got
even know.
together last weekend, but it just didn't work out. I had to get sick.
I know. I was so disappointed, but we will make that happen. I will be back.
Okay.
You will indeed. Moth, next.
Hi, Brooke.
Hi.
I just wanted to say that I absolutely love you. I'm so glad that I've gotten to know you over all this time. You are such an amazing human being, such a great friend, and I hope that you have the greatest birthday in the world.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Love you,
Thank
friend.
you, Moths.
I love
Sam,
you too.
Sam, when Sam's not dancing with goats, what would you like to say about our dear friend Brooke, Sam?
I went to a concert last night, so I barely have a voice. But I just wanted to say that I am so thankful that I have gotten to know you and that you're part of our team. You are such an important part of our team. We really couldn't do what we do without you. You work behind the scenes, and like you said, you prefer to be quiet, but that makes you so important to our team. And not anybody is less important because they don't come up or do announcements or anything. You're just amazing. And aside from working with you here, just you're an amazing person. And I am so grateful to know you.
Oh, thank you so much.
And I love you.
Y'all are going to make me cry on a Friday morning.
Good. That's our goal. Olive?
For being one of the people I constantly look up to and I know has the support. Thank you for all the hard work you do for all of us here at, Fax's team, all of his mods. And I love you so much and appreciate every single thing you do. And when you go to bed tonight, I hope both sides of your pillow are freezing cold.
No, that would be perfect.
Oh, I love that. So Eve and I were talking, Brooke, and we know that this is going to be, you love us for doing this for you, and you hate us at the same time for doing this for you. But take your damn flowers, friend. We love you very much. We're so happy that you're part of our team. Happy belated birthday. And I hope that I hope what you get here today is enough to at least fill your cup a little bit for today. So thank you for being yourself and being so awesome. We love you very much.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
We got you. It's okay to cry.
I love all of you.
Eve, can you stick for just a second? So Brooke,
You
thank you.
betcha.
Moth, thank you. Sam, thank you. Olive, thank you. I love you guys. I'm gonna bounce.
Thank you.
Thanks. Happy Friday.
I love that. Got you, Brooke. We got you. We got you.
We got her.
My partner in crime right here. If you could just do just a quick mod announcement, and then just remind folks that coming up around 10 o'clock, we'll do our next giveaway. Deal?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. I'll be right back.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here to remind you to please support our fabulous hostess with the very feral fist for freedom, bringing you facts over feelings because facts still matter and they always will. So if you have the means, let's help Facts meet his gift goal in subwaves. Subscriptions are such an easy way to show support, and you get access to cool emotes and sub-only events like the weekly giveaway raffle. We're going to be spinning the wheel again today. You can show support directly with the pay-ups in the link tree of his bio. That's a way that you can avoid how TikTok takes out like 38% of gifts. You can find the Facts HQ and Discord link there as well. You can reach the HQ via FactsStillMatter.site. There's new merch. Another way that you can show support. Remember, Steve is here like over 20 hours a week just on this show alone. That doesn't include the F and Fight For or Facts After Dark, which are additional shows he does. Not to mention show prep that goes into making these shows happen. I also want to encourage everyone to participate in the dollar donation drive. Obviously, we know times are tough right now, but most of us can spare $1, and that's literally all I'm asking. You might think $1 is a waste to donate, but it truly all adds up. And even if a fraction of our viewers donated $1, it would make a huge impact. We have a lot of folks that ask for help in our mutual aid channel, and we want to be able to give back to our amazing community and continue to make it the best community on TikTok. If you're just looking for that fun-free forum for the Facts family to frolic, then Discord is the place. If the link in the bio doesn't work, try to copy and paste it into a browser. If that still doesn't work, reach out to a moderator. We'll hook you up. If you haven't already, please click that follow or heart me up at the top of the screen next to Fax's name. You can join the team for the cost of a penny. You can do this every day, and it helps with the algorithm. I also learned that if you claim your daily check-ins, which are under that same tab, that helps the algorithm as well. Sending 1 cent little gifts like the roses or the lightning bolts, that really helps the algorithm and keeps us on the FYP. The main thing that we ask of y'all, though, is to just interact in the comments as well as tapping your little hearts out. It's always free to tap and share out the live. If you don't have any friends, you can click the copy link. It works the same as a share, and no one will be the wiser. And lastly, be kind, smile at a stranger, and have a fuck your feelings kind of day.
Thank you, partner in crime. I appreciate you. Love you, friend. Talk to you later.
Love you. Whee!
Okay, so again, thank you guys for helping support what we do here. And Brooke, happy belated birthday again. We love you. Okay, so one of the things that was effective, again, thank you guys for subscribing. Thank you for joining our team. Appreciate you all very, very much. One of the things that was effective for Mr. Trump is to claim that he's like the no new wars president, that he's anti-war. Well, when pressed during the debate and when pressed by debate with Hillary and when pressed by Anderson Cooper, so here's the sound of that again.
There's a report now out tonight on BuzzFeed that I have not heard it. It includes an audio clip of what appears to be you on Howard Stern talking on the radio on September 11th, 2002. He asked you, are you for invading Iraq? You said, yeah, I guess so. You know, I wish the first time it was done correctly. Is that accurate? Do you remember saying that?
No, but I mean, I could have said that. Nobody asked me. I wasn't a politician. It was probably the first time anybody asked me that question. But by the time the war started, that was quite a bit before.
Yeah, this was 2002.
Yeah, by the time the war started, I was against the war. And there were articles, I mean, there are headlines in 2003, 2004 that I was totally against the war. And actually a couple of people in your world, in terms of the pundits, said.
So headlines, right? So I thought it was fake news, sir. Interesting. When you're trying to support your own bullshit argument, it's convenient to refer to the news. Notice he didn't mention what news source it was. Anyway.
You know, there's definite proof in 2003, 2004, Trump was against it.
Well, 2004, there's a Reuters article which you pointed to a lot, and there were a couple of comments you made, I think, at Vanity Fair Party, and one other comment. Those were, I think, a couple of weeks after the war began.
Right.
Which is okay. A lot of people said, you know, it was so early that even if it was a little bit after the war, I mean, he was totally against the war. I was very much against it.
What?
That was probably the first time I was ever even asked about the war. Howard, who's a great guy, by the way. People don't understand that, but he is Howard.
Great interview.
He's a great interviewer. He's a very talented guy and a good guy. But that was probably the first time. I don't remember that, but it was probably the first time I was asked about it.
Okay. Again, I haven't heard of it, but you may have said this.
Yeah, I may have. When you're
okay, you said you may have said it. Okay. Well, the internet is forever. So we've got the sound of and you guys can make your own determination when he's asked this question.
So you had supported the war in Iraq before the invasion. What makes your judgment?
I did not support the war in Iraq.
2002.
That is a mainstream media nonsense.
You know, I just want everybody to go Google it. Google Donald Trump Iraq, and you will see the dozens of sources which verify that he was for the invasion of Iraq.
Wrong.
And you can actually hear the audio of him saying that.
Donald Trump is right when he says wrong, not dozens. There's one moment.
This is Newsmax in already trying to defend this bullshit. Okay, remember we discussed Newsmax the other day, Newsmax, Fox, OAN. We went to the media bias fact checker, and we know that they spread conspiracy theories, pseudoscience, bullshit. They're low credibility, right? So again, Newsmax attempting to defend this. Hold on.
The audio of him saying that.
Donald Trump is right when he says wrong, not dozens. There's one moment. One moment. Now, you tell me if this is full-throated support the invasion in Iraq. It's an interview with Howard Stern.
Yeah, I guess so.
So again, nice how they cut it out of context. The question was, do you support the war in Iraq? And that interview went back and forth. And I found a couple examples of that video that have been taken down. I don't know if it's coincidence. I'm not calling it a conspiracy theory, but he has gone on the record saying he does support the war in Iraq. Okay. So here we are again, right? Here we are again in an attempt to try to erase history, which is why we talk about it all the fucking time. Okay, so interesting again because we now have.
It seemed to me maybe that could have.
We have statements coming from the White House press office, specifically as it relates to this. So I want you to listen to the response. This is Caroline Levitt. Caroline, by the way, she's not wearing her cross for this. If you know, you know. Listen to how she addresses the question. So she is reading a statement from the president in regards to the war. Just listen to what she says. This is wild because this is how kindergartners speak, okay? This is crazy. All right, here we go.
Now, regarding the ongoing situation in Iran, I know there has been a lot of speculation amongst all of you in the media regarding the president's decision-making and whether or not the United States will be directly involved. In light of that news, I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks." That's a quote directly from the president for all of you today.
Okay, listen to that again. May or may not. There's a substantial chance I may or may not. Again, listen to this again.
Now, regarding the ongoing situation in Iran, I know there has been a lot of speculation amongst all of you in the media regarding the president's decision-making and whether or not the United States will be directly involved. In light of that news, I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take
Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations
place with Iran in the near future,
may or may not take place with Iran in the near future,
I will make my decision whether or not to go
I will make my decision whether or not to go
within the next 2 weeks."
within the next 2 weeks. What the fuck does that even mean? Listen, I dusted off the decoder ring last night and the fucking thing broke. What? Maybe, exactly. You're right, Francis. Maybe, quite possibly, could be. That's like a conversation I've had with my kids. Who didn't flush the toilet? Well, it may be, I don't know. It could have been me. I really don't know. Like, I didn't go to the bathroom. Well, you were the last one in there. I know, but it was in there before. So you saw it and you didn't flush it? It could have been, maybe. Seriously. I'm sorry. One more time. It's listen for the cues. And I would love our friends in the chat. TJ, kiss, love. Explain it. So it's like double and triple negatives. All right.
Regarding the ongoing situation in Iran, I know there has been a lot of speculation amongst all of you in the media regarding the president's decision-making and whether or not the United States will be directly involved. In light of that news, I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks."
So thank you, Simon. Trump hasn't not decided to not go into Iran. Exactly. What the fuck statement was that? And she's reading it like, listen, everybody sit down. It's like a fireside chat with a fascist fat narcissist. I'm going to tell you something because I'm going to tell you something. It's going to make no sense, but you all support him or too stupid to know better anyway. So I'm just going to tell you. Maybe it's thinking whether or not substantial meetings may or may not occur, maybe in 2 weeks. So the world is left to wonder what the fucking fascist is going to do. Okay? So I'm going to get into the specifics around our Antifa Friday. By the way, it is Antifa Friday. Thank you all. We're 3 subs away from 300. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Don't forget, continue to gift and like and share. I want to say thank you to... hold on a second. We had massive power outages up here yesterday, guys. We had some crazy-ass storms. And typically speaking, when the power goes out at my house, it's out for maybe 10 or 15 minutes at a time. It was out for like 6 hours. Didn't have my phone charged, so I cleaned my house. Spotless. It's wild. All right. Thank you to Lisa. Lisa says, I listen to you every morning at work. Thank you for doing what you do. Thank you, Lisa. I really, really appreciate you very, very much. Don't forget about our dollar donations. If you guys want to support what we do here. Thank you, Kate. I appreciate you very, very much. Thank you, Kate. That's very kind of you to the community. Thank you so much, Kate. We appreciate you very much. Okay. So the history of the threats of WMDs in and around the Middle East, some of them can be drawn a straight line. Do you know, here's a question, because you guys are the smartest chat on TikTok. Do you know who put the bug in U.S. intelligence services ear that Iraq had WMDs? Does anybody know? I bet you do. Does anyone know who put the bug in the ear of global intelligence services that Iraq had WMDs? Come to find out, they didn't, so we know that they were lied to. Does anybody know? Yes, Bibi Netanyahu. So this is a story specifically as it relates to that. Okay, let me see if I can find. I kind of gathered some suggestions. All right. And then I'm going to get back to the financial implications of this whole thing, because it's not what you think it is. It's likely what you know it is, because we always tell you guys here, follow the money, right? So I'll talk about that in just a second. Bibi's statements suggesting that there are WMDs, in this case, that Iran is getting closer and closer to a nuke. There's Global Intelligence Service. Don't forget Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence, and others have said no, they're nowhere close. And Trump's like, I don't give a shit what she said. I'm going to believe Bibi. It's a justification because he's under pressure, because his poll numbers are crashing, because his bill is going to kick people off Medicaid, starve children. He needs a win. And in his mind, he feels like he can get a win, even though he lied to his base saying he's not a warmonger, even though he lied to his base saying, I'm not going to put our sons and daughters on foreign soil again. So you guys have been lied to over and over and over again. And here we are on the brink of war. You accused Joe Biden and Kamala Harris of leading us into WW3. And here we are now with ships in the Gulf making threats. Maybe could be kind of, I don't know, should have, maybe don't, not going to know. What the fuck? All right. So on June 13th, during the launch of Operation Rising Lion, Benjamin Netanyahu warned that Iran was on the verge of nuclear weapon capability. Quote, it could be within a few months, less than a year, a couple of days, and vowed the operation would persist until Iran's program was dismantled. That statement sounds like what we just heard. Could be within a few months, less than a year, few days. He emphasized that targets include both nuclear facilities and ballistic missile sites, claiming nobody in Iran has immunity. Part of the strategy for them is to say, well, obviously they're close to nukes, but even if they don't have nukes, they shouldn't have ballistic missiles. Why not? Two things can be true. Iran has proxies. Iran has sponsored terrorism. There's no denying that. That is a consensus across intelligence communities. The Iranian government. I want to make it very, very clear. When I speak in terms of these countries, I'm speaking specifically about their governments. It's not the Israeli people. Okay, it's not the Palestinian people. It's not the Iranian people. It's not the citizens, the families who are just trying to get out of harm's way in these countries. It's the government. The Iranian government has been a sponsor of terror. We know that. That's a consensus across the board with global intelligence communities. We know that. Okay, so Bibi's trying to paint the picture that, sure, there's some debate as to whether or not they're on the verge of having nukes. Well, they shouldn't have ballistic missiles either. It's a different story, right? Yeah, okay. Netanyahu asserted that Israel is capable of striking Iran's deeply buried nuclear facility at Fordo without U.S. backing. Analysts, however, expressed skepticism, pointing out Israel may lack the necessary bunker buster weapons. I saw a documentary recently on bunker busters, and the technology has changed. It's like it's been brinksmanship, right? So the concrete technology changes to address the bunker buster. A bunker buster, by the way, in case you don't know, is something that can burrow deep and then take out bunkers, because they talk about the infrastructure for Iran, not only where their supreme leader lives or is in hiding. Again, a claim that we can't back up. There's no verifiable source other than the words coming from the twice impeached, 4-time indicted, sex abusing, fraudster, convicted felon. But apparently that's where they claim, at least, Israel, Bibi Netanyahu's warmongering, the war criminal regime that he is, says that they're storing their nuclear facilities. We don't know. So bunker busters are designed to go deep. Then what happens is that the concrete technology changes, the bunker buster technology changes, and so on and so forth. Aiming beyond nuclear sites and potential regime change. This is the big. In interviews, Netanyahu stated Israel seeks not just destruction of WMD capabilities, but potentially regime change. Sound familiar? Describing the Iranian government as weak and encouraging Iranians to overthrow it. He drew parallels to historic threats invoking memories of a, quote, second H cost if Iran were allowed nuclear arms. Does that rhetoric sound familiar at all? Yeah, it does. These actions reflect a continuation of Israel's Begin Doctrine originating in 1981, which asserts preventative strikes against emerging WMD threats famously used against Iraq's Osirak reactor. Netanyahu has consistently warned of Iran's nuclear ambitions since the early 1990s, framing them as an existential threat akin to pre-WW2 Germany. So I say this with you because this has happened before. Let me just finish this one particular section. These actions reflect why it matters. Legality concerns. Critics argue the strikes preemptively cross international legality and could provoke wider regional war. Yeah, no shit. Iran has launched retaliatory missiles and drones because they do have a right to defend themselves. Again, the first strike was from Israel under the guise that they were going after WMD. No evidence, no consensus across the intelligence communities. In fact, even Western democracies say, no, they're not close, which then goes back to the Iran, the nuclear deal that Obama signed that Trump pulled us out of. Now he's claiming, well, they've got these. Okay, if they do, it's your fault because you pulled us out of the deal that was working. Iran has launched retaliatory missiles and drones. Israel and the U.S. have bolstered regional defenses as fears of a broader conflict mount. These strikes may derail diplomatic efforts, making a negotiated diplomatic resolution far more complex. Part of the argument that the Trump administration is now using, saying we need another 2 weeks. Why is it always 2 weeks? 2 weeks for infrastructure, 2 weeks for healthcare. Why is it 2 weeks? Okay, I'm going to study that. Maybe there's a particular reason. Maybe 2 weeks is enough time for people to forget about it. Like there's, distraction. There's something else that we'll talk about so we can remind people that we're lying to them. Anyway, Netanyahu is employing assertive, doctrine-consistent rhetoric promising preemptive strikes on Iran's WMD infrastructure, including underground nuclear sites, and hinting at regime change level goals. Supported by historical precedent and framed as existential defense, these policies heighten legal scrutiny and risk intensifying regional conflicts. Problem is, he said all this shit before. He testified to the U.S. Congress on September 12, 2002. Netanyahu, then a private citizen and former Israeli prime minister at that point, testified before the U.S. House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. He strongly advocated for the removal of Saddam Hussein, claiming there's no question, quote, there is no question whatsoever that Saddam is seeking, is working, and is advancing towards the development of nuclear weapons. No evidence found. None whatsoever. There were no WMDs in Iraq. One of the biggest lies ever told the American people, put us in a 20-year war, thousands of American lives lost under a lie that was started by the war criminal himself, Bibi Netanyahu. He also claimed that if you take out Saddam, this is the regime change part, I guarantee you that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region. Really? So what happened when Saddam was removed from power? It created a void. Who filled it? ISIS. Other terrorist groups. Now, I think two things again can be true, right? The world is a better place without somebody like Saddam, as George W. Bush used to call him. And it created a gap in which other terrorist groups like ISIS created this. You get the picture because you're smart. He compared Saddam's regime to Nazi Germany and warned of an impending nuclear threat, echoing and reinforcing the Bush administration's narrative of WMDs in Iraq. I'm going to get to the similarities and how this involves money in just a second. There were no WMDs found. After the invasion, exhaustive searches by the U.S. and international teams found no stockpiles of WMDs in Iraq. The intelligence was later discredited, and the war was widely seen as based on false pretenses. Lies. Nobody had ever heard the term WMD before. Nobody ever heard that term. WMDs, weapons of mass destruction. That came from that particular part of our history, right? Why Netanyahu's statements mattered. Credibility booster for Bush's case. Netanyahu's reputation as a former head of state and a Middle East expert lent credibility to the Bush administration's claim at a critical moment when public and congressional support was needed. Interesting. Netanyahu and other Israeli officials saw Saddam as a major regional threat to Israel and had long supported U.S. military action to remove him. Netanyahu's 2002 warnings about Iraq mirror his ongoing rhetoric about Iran. Exact same thing. Think about what he said in his statements. Iraq has WMDs, nukes, and we need to take out the leaders for regime change. Now it's Iran. Iran is working towards nukes. We've got to take out the leader for regime change. It's no different. It's the same script. And you know who's buying into it? Trump voters in particular, congressional Republicans, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. It's the same story over and over and over again. Bibi Netanyahu is a fucking war criminal. There is no doubt about it. You cannot go before the world press and brag about the ability for the Israeli military to use precise and precision drone strikes to take out targets and then do what you did in Gaza. You murderous fuck. You can't do it. We know who you are. We see you. Yeah, Charlie, you're right. Exactly. You're exactly right. We'll get to that in just a second. So you know who benefited from us being, let me just wrap this up. Critics argue that he has a pattern, this being Netanyahu's 2002 warnings about Iraq mirror his ongoing rhetoric about Iran, especially regarding nukes. Critics argue that he has a pattern of overstating existential threats to influence U.S. foreign policy and U.S. voters. Many lawmakers and foreign policy experts now view Netanyahu's 2002 testimony as part of a broader campaign of misinformation that led to a devastating war. Critics argue it undermined trust in intelligence and fueled long-term instability in the region. Benjamin Netanyahu was a vocal advocate for the Iraq war, using now debunked WMD claims to encourage U.S. intervention. His assertions helped bolster the Bush administration's case for war, but have since been discredited alongside the broader Iraq WMD intelligence data. The episode remains a cautionary tale about politicized intelligence and war making based on questionable evidence. Again, who benefited? The military-industrial complex. Halliburton, McDonnell Douglas, Raytheon, companies like that. They always stand to benefit. And what does it do? It creates an obvious distraction. So the American voters will then ignore the fact that the President of the United States is calling in the National Guard. And it's calling in the U.S. Marine Corps. And we're passing the big, bold, beautiful budget bill. Notice how there's been a lot of conversations about that? Is this churning through the Senate? And we'll give you some updates. Same, exactly. Wag the dog. Exactly, Shadi. Exactly. It's the same old story, friends. This is the exact same story. The Iranian government have been sponsors of terror. We do know that. They use proxies. We do know that. But there is no consensus that they are on the verge of developing nukes. And we know that not only from what the global intelligence tells us, but even in his own statements. Again, I'll read you his statement. Netanyahu warned that Iran was on the verge of nuclear weapon capability. Quote, it could be within a few months. It could be less than a year. What is that? What is that? Right? Oh, I have the same energy towards the Saudis. They're sponsors of terror as well. No doubt about it, which is part of the corruption, which is part of what we're going to get to. Right? So this is the issue here, right? The issue is the corruption connected to the White House, taking gifts, turning a blind eye, not calling out MBS for the unaliving of Jamal Khashoggi, inviting people to Camp David, sponsors of terror. That's who the president is. He doesn't give a flying fuck about this country. Potential soldiers that might be deployed in this case, doesn't give a fuck. He's in it for himself. He's in it for his military industrial complex buddies as they enrich himself. It's the same story over and over and over again. And are you going to fall for it? That's the question. Are you going to fall for it? I hope not. I really hope not. But this is the issue. So, and I'm going to bring it into the conversation regarding why I think what's happening now is just obvious that a lot of people aren't talking about. Again, guys, if you could mind, keep tapping and sharing. Tapping is clapping, sharing is caring. You want to support the channel, there's a few ways you can do it. Don't forget about our $1 a day. We're going to see if this works. Maybe this is our new approach to how we can raise funds. Again, we're trying to help as many people as we can. Jolie, thank you so very, very much. You're very kind. $1 a day. Appreciate you, Jolie. Thank you so very, very much. We appreciate you. All right. And we are 3 subs away from our next target. So thank you, guys. Okay. So let's get into the specifics around why. Did I cover that? I did. Okay. I don't know if you know about what's called the Strait of Hormuz. Most of you do, because you're smart. You're the smartest chat on TikTok. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the most strategically important waterways in the world due to its critical role in global supply. If you look at a map, you see it. It's really narrow. It's a narrow passage of water between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman that connects those two bodies of water. It lies between Iran to the north and Oman and the UAE to the south. It's about 21 miles wide at its narrowest point, but the shipping lane in each direction is only 2 miles wide with a 2-mile buffer, okay? This is why it's so important. 20% of global oil trade passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Over 17 million barrels of oil per day, including exports from, wait for it, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, UAE, Qatar, and Iran. It's considered the world's most critical oil checkpoint by volume. Any disruption, for example, a military conflict, mining of the strait, or sanctions could cause global oil prices to skyrocket, disrupting supply chains and triggering international economic instability. The area is also frequently tense due to continued U.S.-Iran tensions, Iran's threat to block the strait in response to sanctions or attacks, naval confrontations, sabotage of oil tankers, and drone strikes. The Houthis, the justification for Pete Hegseth and his, in his group chat they share with his gardener, his hairdresser, his makeup artist, etc. That part of the world, right, is the epicenter of global oil production. In an attempt to use lies about WMDs, this is the whole story. This is the whole story. Obi was there. He can talk to us about that, I'm sure, at some point this morning. This is the whole story. Everything is connected to this. So when oil prices spike, who will you blame? MAGA. What about Biden? You're going to find a way to blame him. And the argument that you're already seeing from the right is to say none of this would have ever happened if Donald Trump were in the White House previously. Actually, it would have already happened, and we would have already seen the layers of corruption. Another flashpoint, naval confrontations, sabotage of oil tankers and drone strikes, the Houthis in that particular part of the world again. US, UK, and others have deployed naval forces to protect shipping routes throughout the strait. Iran borders the strait and has used the threat of closing it as a bargaining chip in nuclear negotiations and regional disputes. Control or disruption here can give smaller powers outsized influence on global markets. The Strait of Hormuz is vital because it is a gateway for nearly a fifth of the world's oil and a significant portion of natural gas. Any conflict or closure here would have immediate global economic consequences, making it a strategic flashpoint for military and diplomatic tensions in the Middle East. You can draw your own conclusions, right? You can draw your own conclusions. All right? So this is the question that MAG is going to have to answer. The source of these claims about WMDs is Benjamin Netanyahu, the war criminal, who, by the way, as we just went through, has a history of doing the exact same thing. Regime change. Right? So the lies about WMDs, and we've heard him scramble. It could be 2 months, could be a couple of years, I don't know. Who knows? Okay? The same story. So do you want to believe that? Or do you want to just go to the logical conclusion that it is about not just access to the global oil supply, but about the people who would enrich themselves, the people being harmed? So everybody's in cahoots. Everyone's in cahoots. Global, the global oil brands, right? They understand what's at risk here. They get it. They get it. They completely understand. Again, to justify the price of a barrel of oil going up, right? Which is going to drive up your prices at the pumps. Who are you going to blame? Unnecessary. It's completely unnecessary. So on this particular topic, I do think there's always room for a little bit of humor. First, let's listen to Tulsi Gabbard. Okay, this is Tulsi Gabbard in her recent testimony as she was getting confirmed as Director of National Intelligence, DNI. So this is Tulsi Gabbard's claim. Part of the reason that they claim that she should be in this position is because of her experience, right? Because of her experience globally in intelligence, even though I believe she's a Russian asset, but this is the story, okay?
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having it.
You heard it. I don't believe what she said. I think they're very close. You don't believe the person that you put in power? You don't believe the person who is supposed to be giving you the intelligence? And don't forget, there is reporting that he doesn't even look at his intelligence briefings. Like, I think the number's been like 12 or 14. We can probably confirm that. He doesn't even look at them. You know, the daily intelligence briefings? He doesn't even look at them. So how would he know? Right? Right? I mean, okay. We know that Russia backs Iran. We know it's Russia, it's Iran, it's North Korea, it's China. And then it's the Western powers, of which Donald Trump has done an amazing job of isolating themselves from. So we're on our own. Europe's like, fuck, we don't need you. Canada's like, fuck, we don't need you. So who are you going to believe? Again, this is Tulsi Gabbard.
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having it.
I don't agree with what she said. I think they're very close to having one because Benjamin Netanyahu told you so. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. That's what you want. You want to bring us into a war that you promised you would not do. You claim that you didn't support the Iraq war, even though we have you on sound saying, yeah, I guess so. I guess I support it. You claim that you made the promise to your voters, that there would be no new wars. There were no new wars. I don't want war. And here we are once again, unapologetically, he doesn't fucking care. He doesn't fucking care because he's going to enrich himself on the backs of the lives of American servicemen and women, and non-binary servicemen and women. Although, according to Pete Hegseth, there should only be war fighters. Crazy that you've allowed yourself to believe this. I mean, this is next level cognitive dissonance. If you genuinely thought that he was not going to lead us into what's about to happen, it's fucking bad. It is bad. I hope I'm wrong, but it doesn't seem like I am. Okay. I played that sound for you. Let's move this one. I got that covered. All right. So let's let Jordan Klepper just kind of, cheer us up a bit because he's addressing kind of what we just talked about. And I think it's really funny, but we need a little laughter in our life. He's great. Jordan Klepper from The Daily Show. All right, here we go.
The world is tearing itself apart, and everyone is waiting for Trump to make a decision. And remember, Trump abruptly left the G7 summit so he could rush back to the White House, meet with his national security team in the Situation Room, and decide if he's bringing America into this war. So we were all waiting for the big announcement, and then it came.
Trump said in a Truth Social post, "It is my great honor to announce that I will be putting up 2 beautiful flagpoles on both sides of the White House, north and south lawns."
Yes, that is definitely an announcement. Not the announcement we were waiting for, but sure, have a couple flagpoles installed at the White House. That'll be something for the groundskeepers to take care of while you're busy in the Situation Room dealing with more important matters.
At 11 o'clock, we're lifting the flag. But we're going to lift the pole now, and then they're going to the other side.
Okay, all right. All right, be out there introducing the whole thing. Now, back to the Situation Room.
So we'll have one on this side of the building, we'll have one on that side of the building properly placed. These are the best poles anywhere in the country, or in the world, actually.
The best poles anywhere in the country, best poles anywhere in the world.
They're tapered. They have the nice top. I don't know if you people are aesthetic. They're the fake news. I don't know about I don't know there. But it's a very exciting project to me.
What's going on here? Feels like someone told him, "Sir, you're not doing well in the polls." And he was like, "I hear you. I'm on it." By the way, what was that aside about how the fake news doesn't understand flagpole aesthetics? I mean, this is a whole new stereotype of the liberal media I didn't even know about. They lie about Hunter Biden's laptop, and they have no appreciation for tapered flagpoles. Now, personally, I think it's cool that Trump found a new use for the 50-foot pole that Melania refuses to touch him with. He was clearly having a good time, although he stopped himself from getting too carried away.
Let's have a good, they call it a lifting. They also use another word, but I'm not going to use that word. You know what that is? The word, it starts with an E. You know what the word is? If I ever used it, I'd be run out of town by you people. All right, so enjoy it.
Come on, Donald. You think if you say the word erection, we're going to all act like children and take it out of context? I mean, come on. Come on. Where do you get a silly idea like that?
I'm going to come.
Okay, yeah.
I've got that sound. Right. I'm going to come.
It's crazy for Trump to suddenly get all worried about saying erection. His closing campaign message was, vote for me, I saw Arnold Palmer's incredible penis.
Yes.
But okay, you came out, you talked about flagpoles, you met the flagpole guys, you made some flagpole-related dick jokes. Time to turn around, go back inside, and stop and or escalate this war. Let's not waste any more time.
Say what you want about Biden. He wasn't for open borders. He wasn't for transgender for everybody. We don't know where it's coming from, sir. I said, check out the tariffs. He calls back about a day later. Wow. Somewhere in this group, there's somebody that is going to captivate some movie producer. Not Harvey Weinstein. The only thing too late is Powell. Powell's too late. Too late, Powell. Let's have dinner. Too late. You ever have a guy that's not a smart person and you're dealing with any illegal immigrants in here now? 35 club championships. You all know that. I know that. 35 club championships. Groceries are down. Eggs are down. You know, the eggs. You know what I do whenever I talk about Gavin Newsom? I say, look at the railroad. Austria has very, very flammable trees.
Good Lord. I don't want to say anything, but if your flagpole erections last more than 4 hours, you probably want to see a doctor. Donald! Focus! 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 Get back to the flagpoles! No, wait, get back to the war! I mean war! He's got me all mixed up. Just someone ask him about the war!
Have you been answered questions about whether you are moving closer or you believe the U.S. is moving closer to striking Iranian nuclear facilities? Where's your mindset on that?
I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do.
Great. Super helpful. Thanks, Guy. That is the key to this whole thing. Nobody knows what he wants to do, including Donald Trump. He'd rather be doing home renovation projects than figure out how to fix all his ups. And honestly, I agree. I think we should encourage him to spend all his time on landscaping projects as opposed to bringing America into another Middle East war. Frankly, I think a lot of people would be relieved by that decision, even overjoyed. It might even give people, I don't want to say it, but it starts with an E.
Yeah. So there's that. I would like somebody to try to attempt to defend what we just heard. So, as we often speak of in terms of our show here and how everything is a distraction. Everything is a distraction. So have you noticed that there was Kash Patel brought up some language regarding this big controversy, this big conspiracy about the Biden administration covering up Joe and et cetera, blah, fucking blah. So you guys know the news gal. I'm gonna play this for you guys because I think this kind of just covers the news girl on TikTok. I'm just gonna it's just a couple minutes long. I just want you to listen to this and we can talk about it on the other side because I think this sort of paints the picture, right? And how Democrat leadership in the Senate in particular is being petty because this is now what the right is attempting to do. Avert the eyes. What about Biden? Avert the eyes. Don't look at the blatant corruption in the White House. Don't look at the fact the economy's about to crash. Don't look at the fact that he's been lying to you. Don't look at the fact that 10 million people are going to lose their health insurance. Don't look at the fact that kids are going to starve because we're cutting food budgets. Don't look at the fact that we're firing federal employees so the VA can't service veterans who've earned it. Don't look at the fact he's going to bring us into another war without justified reasons. Don't look at any of that. Don't look at all the real estate deals he's making, the money he's making from the crypto schemes. Don't look at that. What about Biden? Okay, so I'm just going to play this. I'll play this for you, and then we can talk about it.
Republicans spent the morning at a hearing asking that question about former President Biden's mental capacity, his age, and his use of the auto pen. While they did bring up some very interesting ideas, which I'm going to get to in a minute, I want to first show you a video montage that the Republicans played to prove their point that not only was former President Biden unfit, but that there was a conspiracy and a cover-up to hide his diminished condition.
For what I've been able to do with the with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare, wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate.
Our sitting commander-in-chief was suffering.
Because obviously, Joe Biden, two things can't be true. Horrible debate performance. Joe sucks in front of a camera. He's old. Okay? No doubt about it. I wish he wasn't. I will go on record as saying that Joe Biden's accomplishments legislatively are some of the most effective that have been some of the most bipartisan and successful pieces of legislation that have impacted Americans for generations to come. And he was old. And he didn't look good on the debate stage. And that was a horrible moment as all Democrats were like, what the fuck did we just witness? No doubt about it. Stay on focus, though, what the goal here is. You're not going to hear John Cornyn, okay, from Texas.
From severe cognitive decline, as evident by this video, as we now know there was a conspiracy.
Oh, here it comes.
To hide the president's true condition.
Senate Democrats boycotted today's hearing, saying it's embarrassing that this is what Senate Republicans are choosing to focus on right now instead of focusing on perhaps the president's use of the National Guard in California or the political violence we just saw in Minnesota or the need for more federal protection for federal judges and lawmakers. But the ranking member of the Judiciary Committee, a Democrat, did show up to today's hearing to offer a video montage of his own and ask more questions about the cognitive ability of another president.
I'd like you to see a short video that includes some other examples of cognitive ability.
What I know about magnets is this. Give me a glass of water. Let me drop it on the magnets. That's the end of the magnet. The kidney has a very special place in the heart. Right, and then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? This is a tough hurricane, one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. When you ran out the healthy arms, you ran out of really healthy. They had great arms, but they ran out. It's called sports. It's called baseball in particular. Can't understand a word he's saying. Did you just see Maduro, Venezuela? It's unbelievable. Well, I don't know about it. I mean, obviously, I'm not involved.
He wants to know why the proclamation was signed in the dark.
I don't know when it was signed because I didn't sign it. Other people handled it.
Apparently, armchair diagnosing former President Biden is more important than the issues of grave concern.
And before we go in,
I've got a few more for you.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. You turn on the water, drip, drip, drip. I know words. I have the best words. But there's no better word than stupid. China has total respect for Donald Trump and for Donald Trump's very, very large brain. Samsung.
Point being, those people who live in glass houses should not throw stones.
further, it is worth noting here that the actual chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee is Republican Senator Chuck Grassley.
Today's hearing is about competency, corruption, and cover-up within the Biden administration.
Senator Grassley is 91 years old and has been in Congress for 50 years. And even though he is the chairman of the Judiciary Committee and supposed to be the one in charge of these types of hearings, He did not chair this particular hearing. Instead,
Wonder why.
Senators Cornyn of Texas and Schmidt of Missouri took over those duties. Now, witnesses during the hearing included a former Justice Department lawyer and deputy assistant to President Trump during his first term, a law professor from the University of Virginia, and Sean Spicer, the former White House press secretary during President Trump's first term. Now, the law professor was specifically called in to discuss constitutional issues and the legality of the use of an auto pen by the president. The professor was very clear that presidents absolutely have the right to use it.
The Constitution and the laws generally, when they require that the president act by signing a document, do not require that the president manually sign the document. The Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel wrote an opinion on that subject in 2005, which is quite extensive, and I find it persuasive. The concept of signature is signing a document is more general than, like a lot of concepts, more general than its central application. The central application is manual signature, but that's not the only way by which someone can sign a document.
Now, it seems that Republicans, and again I say Republicans because they were the only ones in the hearing today, it seems that Republicans accepted that the use of the auto pen is...
Sometimes the TikTok audio is hard to play, so I'm sorry about that. So I can summarize. Obviously, the argument that the right is going to attempt to do now is that Joe Biden's mental decline and then the auto pen. I'll talk about that specifically. We played enough sound. You know,
Samsung.
We played enough sound. Hold on, where's the other one?
In Springfield, they're eating the dog. I know words. I have the best words, but there's no better words than stupid. You turn on the water, drip, drip. Drip.
China has total respect for Donald Trump, for Donald Trump's very, very large brain.
Yeah. Okay. So when you have to defend something, when you have to defend criminality, when you have to defend corruption, when you have to defend illegality, breaking erasing constitutional norms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you have very few places that you can go. Very few places. So because the right primed the pump in their assaults on Joe Biden, some justified and some not, most not, they've got to go back to their same old script. What about Biden? So they're going to attempt to use the think about what that hearing was about. They're going to make claims that Joe Biden was in such cognitive decline that no one in his administration knew or that everyone in his administration was protecting him. And then they bring up the idea of the auto pen. So I want to break it down so that we can talk about the specifics around the auto pen. Okay, what it is and why it has become so controversial. Because what the right is attempting to say, that any pieces of legislation that Joe Biden signed, okay, whether they be pardons, whether they be massive pieces of legislation like the infrastructure bill, the Chips and Science Act, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're attempting to make the argument that because he was justified in use because Joe Biden wasn't aware that it was being signed. Okay, you heard the constitutional law experts say, oh, this is something that they do. There's no legal precedent. Part two of the story that the news girl was talking about was, and I would agree with this, like let's pass legislation that says if it's an auto pen signature, then include it in the text. Include it as an addendum or an abbreviation. Say this document signed under the authority of the president via auto pen. Something that simple. Why would anybody have a problem with that? The problem is that Mr. Trump is going out there claiming that he's never used it, and he uses it as well. Every president has used it. An auto pen signature is a mechanical or digital reproduction of a person's handwritten signature created using a device called an auto pen. It's commonly used by high-ranking officials, including U.S. presidents, to sign documents, letters, and certificates when they are unavailable or need to sign large volumes quickly, like a watermark, exactly. An auto pen is a device that holds a pen and replicates a person's actual handwriting using a pre-programmed template. Originally a mechanical tool, modern auto pens are computerized and highly precise. The signed result is indistinguishable to most people from a real signature. Why it's controversial. The U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 7, requires that the president personally sign bills into law. In 2011, President Barack Obama used an auto pen to sign an emergency extension of the Patriot Act while he was abroad, sparking debate over whether this met the constitutional standards for enacting laws. Critics claimed it violated presentment clause, arguing only the president's personal hand can enact legislation. Critics argue that auto pen use obscures who was truly responsible for the action. Okay, fair. I think that's reasonable. Again, being objective. Example, letters of condolence, medals, or awards might be signed by auto pen, raising ethical concerns about sincerity. Some see it as impersonal or deceptive, especially in sensitive contexts. For example, letters to grieving families. Overuse and public backlash. When public figures use auto pens too liberally, it can be seen as lazy, disingenuous, or disrespectful. Donald Trump has made the claims that he's never used the auto pen, and we know that is just not true. When it's generally accepted, form letters, mass mailings, or ceremonial acknowledgments, examples, birthdays, retirements, time-sensitive government functions when the official is unavailable, or when accompanied by clear disclosure, it's an auto pen signature. Former President Trump did use an auto pen, although he said it was only for very unimportant papers. So he's gone on the record saying, I didn't use it. He's also gone on the record saying, I did, but for very unimportant papers. When asked on Air Force One in March of 2025, he acknowledged using the device to sign routine constituent letters, but implied he never used it for official documents like pardons or executive orders, which he insisted he signed personally. Okay, so again, we've got, how do we know, right? We know because he tells us he did it, and then he tells us that he didn't do it. And then when he says he did, when he said he did it, he only did it for constituent letters, but that implied that he never used it for something official. This is the issue, right? Auto pen usage is legally valid. The U.S. Department of Justice under George W. Bush and past presidents, including Barack Obama and Joe Biden, have used auto pens for signing bills, pardons, and correspondence, all upheld. Trump launched an investigation into former president's use of auto pen, claiming aides may have used it without Biden's conscious knowledge to sign key documents, potentially making them invalid. However, legal experts affirm that auto pen signatures carry the same legal weight when done with presidential authorization. So Bush, Obama, Biden, and Trump have all used it. The question then becomes, what is valid and how do we address this? I think, again, being objective, I would have no issues with passing legislation that says a note, like an addendum or a watermark or something that accompanies the documents that are being signed. It says this document was signed with an auto pen. Under the direction of the president, this document was signed with an auto pen, or something to that effect. So do we really think that President Trump is signing all these executive orders, although he makes these big displays in the White House? Thank you, Mandolin. We're one sub away, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you very, very much. So who the fuck knows, right? Who the fuck knows? Thank you, guys, very much. Thank you all for helping us get to our sub goal. In summary, Trump used the auto pen, but he stated only for low-stakes correspondence. This aligns with prior presidential practice, and there's no legal barrier to its usage as confirmed by DOJ and the historical precedent. While Trump criticized Biden's use of the device in order to investigation, experts and precedent affirm that auto pen signed documents remain legally valid when properly authorized. In fact, he did it himself. So, just ask yourself the question, right? Again, be objective. If you don't like the use of the auto pen, then Mr. Trump has used the auto pen as well. How do you know? How do you know? So the argument from the Trump camp, again, John Cornyn, and I'm glad they called it out, Chuck Grassley is 91 years old and normally would chair the committee about being in cognitive and not being in cognitive decline. So if that's the case, then why, of course, they're not going to want him to chair that committee. So he's just conveniently not there. Let me just do something. Conveniently not there, right? Because if you're going to question someone's age and or competency, you certainly don't want someone who's 91. I'm not trying to be ageist and or ableist here. I'm just stating a fact. Have you seen Chuck Grassley stand up for his constituents? You know, his best days are behind him. There's no doubt about that. Anybody at 91. I hope I fucking make it to 91. But can we address the controversy? Can we address it through just, instead of the bullshit rhetoric, knowing full well that Trump has used the auto pen as well? More lies? He has used it. He's told people, again, this is the quote. I've told people I didn't use it. Then I told people I did. Let's see. On Air Force One, he said, I've used it, but for very, very unimportant papers. I'm sorry. A presidential signature is suddenly very unimportant? You put your signature on it, and it's not important? And then telling people he didn't use the auto pen? So which is it? Is he lying that he used it, or is he lying that he didn't? Can you make up your mind? Can you make up your mind? And I know you're concerned about your poll numbers, which is why you went out and bought Canadian steel-made flagpoles and put them up in the White House, because it now looks like a fucking, I don't know, whatever it is. Anyway, can we address it through legislation? I'm happy with that. And while we're at it, can we address pardons and commutations, the unfettered ability for president to do that? I think that would be something we should be able to address. Can we find bipartisan compromise on that? Do we feel the president's authority to pardon people should be questioned? I don't know. I'd like to think so. So if you're going to make the argument that Joe Biden shouldn't be able to pardon his family, we can make the argument that Donald Trump shouldn't be able to pardon convicted felons, right? So it's become this political game, right? It's become this political game. The right can justify the fact that they don't think Joe Biden should be able to pardon his son. I can understand why they would say that. I can also look at it from a father's perspective, and I think Joe Biden would not have pardoned Hunter if it wasn't for the things that Donald Trump had said. We're going to go after you. Don't forget about Kash Patel's hit list, right? Similarly, you can't claim that you support the troops, you support the blue, you back law enforcement, and then you pardon 1,600 fucking traitors from January 6th? Make it make sense. make it make sense. Just be consistent. Just be consistent. Please. That's all I'm asking for. Just be consistent. If you want to criticize something from, what about Biden administration? Then do it. But if we're going to look at the same thing, if you want to criticize the Biden administration for what you deem as corruption, okay. First of all, you haven't shown anybody any evidence. That's fine. Then why can't you do the same thing? Why can't you say, yeah, accepting a $400 million jet, and you guys want to claim that was from the Biden administration? You're just fucking wrong. There's just no evidence of that at all. But you don't want to talk about that. You don't. You accept the fact that the White House is for sale. You don't care. We've got the financial disclosure, and we're going to go through that a little bit this morning, but that's what this is about, right? This is about just the inability for anybody who is either hardcore MAGA or a Trump supporter attempting to justify the things that you were 10 toes down critical of under the Biden administration. And none of you will talk about it. You will not. I can bring up, you are comfortable with countries fast tracking permits so the Trump family can develop real estate during his presidency in a nation overseas. You are comfortable with the president criticizing the government of Qatar when he was president the first time, and now he loves them because they gave him a jet. You cannot square that, which is why you guys don't want to talk about it anymore. I get it. I wouldn't either. I wouldn't talk about it either, because what are you going to do? Where are you going to go? What's your argument going to be? How do you justify it? How do you justify him enriching himself? How do you justify that? You guys always talked about how did Joe Biden leave the White House with $20 million? Because he signed a fucking book deal. And we see it on the financial disclosure. Because that's what people do in the public eye. You sign a book deal. I've got like 6 books that are in various phases of completion. I'd love somebody to give me a book deal. Come on, just be consistent. It's not that hard. Just be consistent. And I'm desperate to say that maybe we could find common ground on something like that. Can we just accept the fact that we want legislation for the auto pen? Can we just agree that we should figure out a way to maybe see what the whole pardon process is, and maybe there are limits, maybe that you can't pardon somebody for a federal crime or a capital crime? I don't know. Exactly. It's what Obama did. It's what Bush did. I don't give a fuck. If you're going to use the auto pen, use the auto pen. Shut the fuck up about it. Or let's legislate a solution. It's just weird, man. You guys are just weird. Okay, so let's get into the Trump family wealth. Specifically, because I want to talk about it in terms of the financial disclosure. So the financial disclosure statement came out recently. It's part of the process. Every year, the financial disclosure has to be submitted. So we know from the June 14th, it covered the calendar year 2024. So everything I'm going to talk about specifically as it relates to this addresses him prior to the presidency. The issue is a lot of these things still exist, and the Trump family is still enriching itself. And now we have the phone. All right. Total income received in 2024 was over $600 million. Estimated net assets around $1.6 billion. This is reported on by the Washington Post. This comes from the financial disclosure. Okay. Major earnings breakdown. $57.3 million from token sales through crypto ventures. From token sales via World Liberty Financial, Trump's owns 60% stake, 15.75 billion governance tokens. An additional $350 million plus in fees from the Trump-branded meme coin, Trump, with detailed figures expected in next year's disclosure. So he is the president. He is enriching himself. I don't know why the right can't discuss this. Oh, I know why. Because you can't. Because if you discuss it, then you're admitting to corruption. Whether it be emoluments clause or ethics violations, he's not divested. Okay. Revenues from Trump golf resorts in 2024. From Trump National, $110 million. From Mar-a-Lago, $60 million. Again, reported by the Washington Post. Foreign licensing management deals in Vietnam, like we just discussed, UAE, India, Saudi Arabia, Oman, $50 million plus. Licensing. That's where he's made most of his money. His name on something, right? So you're comfortable with the president of the United States having licensing deals and backroom negotiations where we do have a lot of the assets that are listed, but we have no fucking idea. And part of the crypto side of things is it's not transparent. And that was something that the DOJ, early on in Pam Bondi's sort of tenure, was to basically get rid of the agency that was investigating cyber crimes and crimes related to crypto. Why would they have to do that if they're being transparent? Okay. So the White House is for sale. Branded merchandise and royalties. Okay. $7.6 million from a combination of royalties from Bibles, shoes, watches, fragrances, and guitars, including $1.3 million from the God Bless the USA Bible. It's one thing to have generated that much revenue and royalties from Bibles, but enough American people decided that they were going to spend their hard-earned money on the Trump-branded Bible? $7 million from royalties on Bibles, shoes, watches, fragrances, and guitars. Nearly $9 million total in those things. But what about Biden? $2.8 million from Trump-branded watches. An additional $2.5 million from fragrances. And $3 million in royalties from his book, Save America. And millions of people are going to be kicked off their health care. There is a statement that just came out. This is reported on X. The president has instructed the United States Senate to remove all 1.4 million illegal aliens from Medicaid to put Americans first, per Caroline Leavitt. This is the statement. I'll let you listen to it.
prioritize the sick. The president, for one, I will reiterate, has been very clear on his priorities with respect to Medicaid. He wants to see waste, fraud, and abuse ridden from the system to protect it for tax-paying citizens who deserve.
Anyway, so that directive has instructed the United States Senate to remove all 1.4 million illegal aliens from Medicaid to put America first. So the number is debatable, what that number is. But do you understand, friends, that there's protections for pregnant people and children? Okay? That's an emergency care. They're not taking advantage of it. They're going to use that. They're going to use that fucking lie to kick millions of Americans off of health care. I'm under threat for that because of the situation I'm in based on I have Obamacare, but it's supplemented to cover my kids. It's fucking real. This shit is real. Right? It's real. And then back to the reporting. $7 million, nearly $10 million total between royalties from the book Save America, sneakers and fragrances, Trump watches, Trump Bibles, Trump shoes, Trump guitars. What? What? And then we have the situation with Iran when a lie that was started by Bibi Netanyahu in justification to say, yes, we need the United States because Iran's building nukes. No, this is to keep the oil lobby fucking happy. And you guys will attempt to try to justify it. There are 14 states in America that only provide access for undocumented citizens, undocumented individuals, for children and for pregnant people. And that's it. And then emergency care. And we're still talking about kicking 10 million people off. On that topic, hold on. On that topic, before I go too further down this road, I want you to hear some sound from Ted Cruz first. Okay, hold on.
Includes roughly 715.
Hang on one second.
Cuts in there. The bill includes roughly. Not cuts in Medicaid, significant cuts in there. The bill includes roughly $715 billion in cuts from Medicaid in the coming year.
Again, House budget bill, it's in the fucking bill. 1.4 million ain't even close to be able to get them to get to the number that they want. $715 billion in cuts over 10 years. That's 10.9 million Americans would lose coverage. 10.9 million. It's in the bill. And there are people in the Senate that want to go even further than that. And Mr. Trump made $9 million in royalties on the sales of Bibles, shoes, watches, fragrances, guitars, and the Save America book. Crypto, a personal crypto and NFT and spouse income. Holds at least $1 million in Ethereum and reported $1.2 million in NFT income. Melania reported $700,000 in speaking fees and $216,000 in NFT royalties. Trump branded smartphone. Now, $499 dubbed Trump Mobile. Made in China. Made overseas. Trump Media, True Social parent, valued at around $2.1 billion, placed into a trust that benefits Don Jr. So when Don Jr. declares his candidacy for presidency in 2028, mark it down, June 20th, 9:46 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to make this statement. Before the end of 2026, Donald Trump Jr. will declare his candidacy for the presidency. Mark it down. He also has his legal issues that he outlines in his financial disclosure. Liabilities from legal rulings, $90 million in the E. Jean Carroll New York damages, and then the $350 million plus in the civil fraud case, which that one's pending appeal. Okay. In summary, Trump's vast income streams, crypto ventures, luxury properties, branded merchandise, and real estate licensing and media ventures have collectively produced over $600 million in annual income and a $1.6 billion net worth. His financial footprint is heavily intertwined with private businesses, family trusts, global licensing, and very controversial crypto deals. So can you please attempt to be objective for just a moment? And I worry, I'm desperate. I know I sound like a broken record, and I am desperate to try to find someone who can be objective. For those of you that for 4 fucking years talked about corruption in the Biden crime family, and you could never draw a straight line, ever, because there wasn't one, from Hunter to Joe Biden, with the exception of nepotism. Okay, sure. Did Hunter use his dad's name to get places? Abso-fucking-lutely. No doubt about it. That's what you get with celebrity. No doubt about it. You created all these scenarios about Burisma and who was that guy that they brought? Devin Archer. The Republicans call in Devin Archer, and Devin Archer's like, yeah, no, all he did was talk on the phone and say, hey, it's Dad, how's it going? He never saw any criminality. Lev Parnas blew the whole fucking thing up. You know, Trump gets impeached because he wants Zelensky just to kind of open up an investigation on Joe Biden. And there was nothing. There was no there, as they say. And you guys are okay with this? Oh, how did Joe Biden make his money? Well, he made his money on book deals. Well, shouldn't do that. Well, Trump's got a book deal. Well, that's different. Do you see why it is that we laugh at you? Do you understand why we mock you? Do you get it? Do you understand why we have these conversations? Why is it so difficult just to take a step back and be objective? Do you understand that you would have allies on one issue if you said, we need to make sure that our president does not unilaterally be able to use the National Guard for every single emergency, even if they create it, no matter what it is, and there should be no questions about ethics in regards to how they make their money. There should be no questions about it. There should be absolutely clear lines. We shouldn't have the press secretary going in an attempt to fucking justify how the Trump administration is making money on using the Trump. Well, it's the Trump phone is different. Come on. What? Okay. I've got a story I want to read to you guys about preppers in just a minute because I think it's just interesting. I'll get to that in a second. But this is, again, I just want you to, as a reminder, just listen to the person who's in charge. And when the right, now their focus is going to be to try to claim that Joe Biden's signature on documents are invalid because of his cognitive decline. Okay? I want you to listen to how this guy speaks. This is just, okay.
Especially with war. Things change with war. It can go from one extreme to the other. War is very bad. There was no reason for this to be a war. There was no reason for Russia, Ukraine. A lot of wars there was no reason for. You know? You look right up there, I don't know, see the Declaration of Independence that I say. I wonder if the Civil War, it always seemed to me maybe that could have been solved without losing 600,000 plus people. So a lot of, it's very sad to see. It's very sad to see what's happening.
So the Declaration of Independence is about the Civil War, my guy? What? What did you do? Oh, sorry. Doggy. No wonder. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. Thank you. Okay. You're right. It's embarrassing. It's like, come on. Can we even have, don't forget, he talked about the Declaration of Independence being a document of love. He apparently doesn't even know what it is. Don't forget, he still believes. I firmly believe this. He still believes. Oh, wait, I got to fix this. Hang on a second. I have a wireless charger for my phone and it slipped. Otherwise, we would have been dead in the water. I generally believe that he thinks the Declaration of Independence copy that he has on the wall in the Oval Office is the real one. I absolutely believe that he thinks that. No doubt about it. Again, listen to this sound.
Especially with war. Things change with war. It can go from one extreme to the other. War is very bad. There was no reason for this to be a war. There was no reason for Russia, Ukraine. A lot of wars there was no reason for. You look right up there, I don't know, see the Declaration of Independence that I say. I wonder if the Civil War, it always seemed to me maybe that could have been solved without losing 600,000 plus people. So a lot of, it's very sad to see. It's very sad to see what's happening.
What the fuck is he talking about?
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. I know words, I have the best words, but there's no better word than stupid.
Somebody just said, can I play the Gettysburg Wow moment? Yeah. Mods, can you guys do me a solid? Find me the sound that says the Gettysburg Wow moment. You guys know what I'm talking about. What? Come on. Can you just be objective that the guy in the White House is a fucking idiot? And you can, what about Biden all you want? You can say Joe Biden looked old and feeble, and I was like, yeah, you're right. Joe Biden was a horrible speaker, and he did make sense at times when he spoke to people. Yeah, I would agree. And Donald Trump is a drooling, bumbling fool who can't put two sentences together. That he thinks that the Declaration of Independence has something to do with the Civil War. Yeah, never fight uphill, me boys. I might be able to find it. Who knows? Let me just take a quick look. Fight uphill, me boys. There we go. I love the internet. I really do. Well, let's let Jon Stewart tell us, because that'll be fun. Hold on. Yeah, here we go.
Trump spoke near one of America's most hallowed battlefields. And if you thought Lincoln consecrated Gettysburg with his soaring rhetoric, well, buckle up.
Gettysburg, what an unbelievable battle that was. The Battle of Gettysburg, what an unbelievable, I mean, it was so much and so interesting and so vicious and horrible and so beautiful in so many different ways. It represented such a big portion of the success of this country. Gettysburg, wow.
That is plagiarized almost directly from my 7th grade book report, Gettysburg, wow. I did not do well. Is that even my name like that? It was vicious, horrible, and beautiful. Is he talking about a Civil War battle or a horse giving birth? Like, it was bloody, but it's life. Now, obviously, I'm not a Civil War buff, like. But unlike me, he even knows all the famous quotes.
I go to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania to look and to watch. And the statement of Robert E. Lee, who's no longer in favor. Did you ever notice that? No longer in favor. Yeah. Never fight uphill, me boys. Never fight uphill. They were fighting uphill. He said, wow, that was a big mistake. He lost his great general. And they were fighting. Never fight uphill, me boys.
It is true. The North did have the higher ground, but I'm pretty sure that Robert E. Lee was not a leprechaun. I never fight uphill, me boys. That's not how to take back the North's pot of gold. You can't be fighting uphill, me boys. Also, minor point, but I'm pretty sure Robert E. Lee would not have told them never fight uphill, since he's the one who told them to fight uphill. He wasn't like, hey, they go up the hill. Oh, I'm going to be so mad if they do that. They go up the hill. It was Longstreet actually told them to go up the hill. But Robert E. Lee said, everybody can do what they want.
It's just so fucking embarrassing. It is so embarrassing. It is just... You know, can we just have a basic understanding of United States history? A basic understanding. I'm going to play this one for you guys. Thank you for the chat for reminding me. Like I always say, you guys are the smartest chat on TikTok. This is a famous one. And the reason I'm playing these today is because of the right is going again to attempt to try to divert their eyes. Don't look at the man behind the curtain. Wizard of Oz moment. Don't look at the man behind the curtain. Don't look at who is currently in charge. Don't look at the fact that the guy leading our country who's got his finger on the fucking button and who could send us to war is a bumbling fucking fool. We just want you to think about Joe Biden. Okay, so this was the question about childcare. Remember this? You guys remember this classic?
You talked about how the increase in the price of food, gas, and rent is hurting families. But the real cost that's breaking families' backs and preventing women from participating in the workforce is childcare. Childcare is now more expensive than rent for working families and is costing the economy more than $122 billion a year, making it one of the most urgent economic issues that is facing our country. In fact, the cost of childcare is outpacing the cost of inflation, with the majority of American families of young children spending more than 20% of their income on childcare. One thing that Democrats and Republicans have in common is that both parties talk a lot about what they're going to do to address the childcare crisis, but neither party has delivered meaningful change. If you win in November, can you commit to prioritizing legislation to make childcare affordable? And if so, what specific piece of legislation will you advance?
Fair question. Tell us how you're going to help American families. Tell us how you, a person who was born on third and a half base, is going to help American families who are struggling with the burden of childcare. Please explain, sir.
Well, I would do that, and we're sitting down. I was somebody, we had Senator Marco Rubio, and my daughter Ivanka was so impactful on that issue. It's a very important issue. But I think when you talk about the kind of numbers that I'm talking about, that because look, childcare is childcare. There's something, you have to have it. In this country, you have to have it. But when you talk about those numbers compared to the kind of numbers that I'm talking about by taxing foreign nations at levels that they're not used to, but they'll get used to it very quickly. And it's not going to stop them from doing business with us, but they'll have a very substantial tax when they send product into our country. Those numbers are so much bigger than any numbers that we're talking about, including childcare. That it's going to take care. We're going to have. I look forward to having no deficits within a fairly short period of time. Coupled with the reductions that I told you about on waste and fraud and all of the other things that are going on in our country. Because I have to stay with childcare. I want to stay with childcare, but those numbers are small relative to the kind of economic numbers that I'm talking about, including growth, but growth also headed up by what the plan is that I just told you about. We're going to be taking in trillions of dollars. And as much as child care is talked about as being expensive, it's relatively speaking not very expensive compared to the kind of numbers we'll be taking in. We're going to make this into an incredible country that can afford to take care of its people, and then we'll worry about the rest of the world. Let's help other people. But we're going to take care of our country first. This is about America first. It's about make America great again. We have to do it because right now we're a failing nation. So we'll take care of it. Thank you. Very good question. I know words. I have the best words. But there's no better word than stupid. You turn on the water, drip, drip, drip.
I did a video a while back. It's on my page somewhere. I did it. I used that script. I pulled the transcript and I did it as if I were Shakespeare, or it was I delivered it. I delivered it as if it was a Shakespearean play. I lit the room with candles because it was the only thing that made sense. It's on my page. Maybe I'll repost it. I thought it was funny. Childcare is childcare. Anyway, there is a massive, massive crisis of childcare in our country. Lack thereof. Quality childcare. I've talked about this story before. There are so many examples of working parents, single moms, single dads, working parents, single moms in this case. You get your 5 weeks, 6 weeks maternity leave if you're lucky before you have to go back to your cubicle. Right? you go back to work to ensure that you have health insurance, and the money that you earn while you're there only goes to pay for the child care, if you can get it, so that you can go back to work to get insurance. And here's this guy who's making $9 million on royalties that include guitars, Bibles, shoes, watches, fragrances, the Save America book, the coffee table book, and now we've got the Trump phone, and he's going to expand his wealth by fast-tracking and ignoring tariffs in certain countries so he can get access to their property and build the next generation of the Trump real estate empire globally. And he's trying to talk about childcare as if it's no big deal. It pales in comparison. Do you people have any ability to be objective at all about anything? The same criticism that you've had for years against the Democrats. Corruption and money. Again, two things can be true. There is waste, fraud, and abuse in government. No doubt about it. But you cannot sit there with a straight face and say that that guy is not a bona fide fucking grifter who has no clue about what the needs of the American people are because he doesn't give a fuck. Just does not fucking care. Man. 7 times, at least on Epstein's plane that we knew of. 97 times pled the fifth. 34 felony convictions. 91 criminal charges. 21 sexual assault allegations. 6 bankruptcies. 5 draft deferments. 4 indictments. 2 impeachments. 2 convicted companies. 1 fake university shutdown. 1 fake charity shutdown. $25 million fraud settlement. $5 million sexual abuse verdict. $2 million fake charity abuse judgment. $93 million sexual abuse and defamation judgments. And $400 million plus in fraud judgment. That's your guy. That's the guy that you think is America first. That's the guy that you think is looking out for you. That's the guy that you think is going to lower the cost of a gallon of eggs. Yes, I know what I said. That's the guy. 7 times, 91, 34 felony convictions, 91 criminal charges. But what about Biden? What about Biden? Yeah, 6 bankruptcies. That's in there. Just be objective. Just take a step back and say, yeah, that seems kind of weird. Because unless you're saying that all of it is weaponization of government. So the government was responsible for Trump flying on Epstein's plane? The government was responsible for him pleading the fifth 97 times? I got to find that sound. Okay. Hold on. Trump plead the fifth. Let's see. Hold on a second. What did he say? If guilty, right? What did he say about it? Here we go.
So there are 5 people taking the Fifth Amendment, like you see on the mob, right? You see the mob takes the Fifth. If you're innocent, why are you taking the Fifth Amendment?
I'm sorry. What was that, Donald?
Right? You see the mob takes the Fifth.
What was that?
If you're innocent, why are you taking the Fifth Amendment?
Oh, okay.
Fifth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, Fifth Amendment. Horrible. Horrible.
When you have your staff taking the Fifth Amendment, taking the fifth so they're not prosecuted. When you have the man that set up the illegal server taking the fifth, I think it's disgraceful.
Don't forget, he's cited 97 separate incidences of when he pled the Fifth Amendment. He claimed the fifth like 400 times in his deposition in New York. Again, just be objective. Just be objective. If you don't like the Fifth Amendment, then you need to be critical of Mr. Trump saying, well, only the mob or only corrupt people take the Fifth, when he's taken the Fifth 97 separate occasions, including over 400 times that he said it in his defamation case in his civil fraud trial in New York. Just be consistent. That's all we're asking for. Just be a little consistent. Okay. All right. I want to talk about, this is an interesting story. I think preppers has always been an interesting group of people that I've always, in a strange way, in a very strange way, I have a kinship with. And I'll tell you why. Because you guys know where I grew up. I spent days, I would just tell my parents I'm just going up into the woods, and I'd be gone. I'd build my own fucking shelter. I'd build a lean-to. I'd fish. You know, I might sneak back down to the house to get some crackers or something if I wasn't catching any fish. You know, I make a cod out of moss. I was like, seriously, that's what I grew up doing. I loved it. I still do it today, although I don't have the time where my body will hold up to like that stuff anymore. So I've always had this strange kind of kinship. Like, I had a fort one time. The only way you could get to the fort was to hop on a rope swing and swing across this chasm. I had canned food in there. Might have had some cigarettes. Just saying. You know, it was just a weird thing. I just did it. I felt comfortable doing it. I still feel incredibly comfortable, even if I'm alone in the woods. I've always felt that way. So I've had this weird kind of kinship, right, with preppers. But we equate preppers with extremists. And in some cases, it's gotten really, really extreme. But there's some new reporting that's coming out now based on how people are responding to certain situations, and your political ideology is irrelevant. These Americans are prepping for doomsday, but they're not who you think they are. In an era of barreling crises, from wars to climate change, some people say prepping is becoming increasingly appealing to those on the left. The roots of modern-day prepping in the United States goes back to the 1950s, when fears of nuclear war reached a fever pitch. 1970 saw the emergence of the survivalist movement, which dwindled in the 90s as it became increasingly associated with an extreme right-wing subculture steeped in racist ideology. A watershed moment for right-wing preppers was the election of Barack Obama in 2008. Mike Mills, a social scientist at Anglia Ruskin University, said, for those on the left, it was Trump's 2016 election. Preppers of all political stripes are usually motivated by a foggy cloud of fear rather than a belief in one specific doomsday scenario playing out, Mills said. Broad anxieties tend to swirl around the possibility of economic crisis, pandemics, natural disasters, war, terrorism, etc. Preppers of all political stripes. Marlon Smith, who now lives in New Jersey, runs a fashion company by day and spends his weekends teaching survival skills, including how to survive fallout. People find it funny that I work in women's evening wear, and yet I do this hardcore prepping and survivalism in the woods. In some ways, there aren't huge differences in how preppers on the left and right prepare, Bill said. Both focus on long-term supplies of food, water, gathering equipment needed to bug in when they shelter in their homes and bug out when they need to leave in a hurry. Left-wing preppers consistently say the biggest difference between them and their right-wing peers is the rejection of a bunker mentality. The idea of filling a bunker with beans, rice, firearms, and ammo and expecting to be able to survive the apocalypse alone. Yes, I agree, Kipper. This focus on community may stem in part from left-wing preppers' growing fears around the climate crisis, predicted to usher in far-reaching ecological, social, and economic breakdown. It cannot be escaped by retreating to a bunker for a few weeks. Quote, people are our greatest asset, Margaret Killey said. So I think it's a really interesting depiction and sort of, contradiction in the reasons why people prep. So we think about the preppers on the right, and I do believe that there are some racial undertones connected to it. We can dissect that all day long. But if you think about, it's funny, I've been joking with members of the mod community, say, when are we going to start our commune? Everybody's got their own skills. We certainly know certain people, like I'm Cookie, you're in charge of security. I'm just going to leave it right there. If you know, you know. But you're right. So I think about it in terms of prepping is that I feel comfortable in a lot of environments. Not a lot of people do, but prepping from the left seems to be about sustainable communities, right? About getting off the grid, becoming sustainable We all live on our own. We all provide, if you've watched The Last of Us, right? I'm not saying that this is what we're talking about, but that's a community where everybody has skills that they contribute. And I love that shit. Right? I love it. I'm a huge fan. The right seems to be more about bunker mentality. I'm going to lock people out. The left wants to bring people in, but you have to contribute, right? You want to contribute. And I just think it's an interesting split. And everybody has their own reasons. So they're saying they've been tracking this. So the right was the election of Barack Obama. The left was the election of Trump. Justifiable reasons for people to do it. But yeah, we know you're bringing the animal, Sam. You get too close to your animal, so that's the only problem. But that's fine. We all have our roles. We all have our roles. We already have our team assigned in our community. Much like the country of Antifa, we are taking applications. What can you contribute to join our commune? Anyway, I just think it's an interesting conversation. So you can cook, excellent. That's good to know. Got a lot of people who can cook. Well, what do we need? What are we missing? Entertainment. That's important. Okay. We need comedians. We need musicians. Okay, can do that. We'll be fine with Antifa. We'll be fine in the country of Antifa. Yep. You can sew and knit. That's good. That's a good skill. Does anybody have any? Let's see. What else do we need? You can grow vegetables. You can be a dance partner. You can take care of the animals. That's good. Medical. Good call. Reconnaissance. That's good. We're getting there. See, anybody got experience with horses? That we're going to need that, right? We're going to need people who are good at building sustainable infrastructure, whether it be windmills. Oh, don't worry if they cause cancer. Different conversation. That kind of stuff. Cut hair, lots of jokes, caregivers. See? Think about what we just saw, right? Right? The people responding were all about the greater good, like the greater community. I don't know. Something to think about. It's on my mind when I'm out in the woods. I get a little too much time on my hands, guys, when I'm out in the woods, like when I'm not sleeping or if I'm on my motorcycle. This is where my head goes. Teachers, we're going to need teachers, right? We're going to need teachers, obviously, for all of us. Okay. Let's see. Did I play that one already? I did. I played that one. Okay, I don't know if you guys have been following Pete Hegseth getting dragged. Actually, Eve, do you want to come up and do what we talked about? We're going to do our giveaway. We did one last week, and we're going to continue to do this. The more subscribers we get, we want to show appreciation to our subscribers for what they do. So when I'll bring Eve up, she can do that, and I will be right back. I'll take this opportunity to take a quick break. Thank you for being here, friend. I appreciate you. But by the way, what did we decide your role was? I forget in our commune. What did we decide?
I'll bring the 420 snacks.
That's right. That's right. You are our purveyor. You are our unexpected angel who provides fun times when needed. So yes, thank you. I'll be right back.
That's right. Joy is an act of resistance. So folks, I'm going to direct your attention to the announcement channel in our Discord, where I am entering our wheel of names, and we are spinning right now. The wheel of names is thinking. The winner will receive a t-shirt or mug of their choice from the merch store. And we are spinning. Ken J, you are our winner. Ken J. So I will reach out to Ken and you can pick an item of your choosing. We have lots of new t-shirts to choose from. And if you decide that you would rather have a coffee mug, I can add that artwork to the coffee mug and make that special for you. Let's get W. Kens in the chat. Thank you, Hunter's mom. This is awesome. Now, y'all remember, while I'm up here, we should be tapping that screen and sharing out the live. Don't forget our daily dollar donation drive. Like I said before in the morning announcement, that $1 is not too much to ask. It all adds up. I know that when you hear $1, you think that might be a waste of a donation, but it's not. I really want to encourage y'all. That adds up, and we want to give back to our community, like the raffle. that we're doing here weekly. We want to give back to our folks in need in the mutual aid channel, and your dollar donations adding up allow us to do that. So thank you so much for being part of our community and supporting Steve. So much goes into this show, from the show prep to working on additional shows that he does, like the F and Fight For Town Hall series and Facts After Dark. We love Steve and all the work that you put in. So show your appreciation and send out those 1 cent gifts, because TikTok does take a hefty 38% out. I believe it's 38% of any of the gifts that are giving. So the little 1 cent ones help the algorithm in keeping us on the FYP. Just a rose here and there or a lightning bolt, that really helps to keep us relevant. And of course, the daily heart me's. Those are so important. So thank you all so much. Let's see. I don't think I have anything more to add. Just continue to interact. Thank you all so much. Yes, sir.
Appreciate you. And you're on the hook for being our 420 purveyor. Appreciate you, friend. See you later.
Oh, absolutely. That's my pleasure. I have to share that love. Woo!
Bye. Thank you to Chad. Thank you to Angela. Thank you to Ravi, to Lisa, for Jolie, for Kate, for Lisa again, and Heather. You guys are great. Appreciate that. We're trying to change people's lives. Sometimes it's a buck at a time. Appreciate you guys very, very much. Okay, I've been following the Pete Kegsbreath controversy. I'm not going to say controversy, but he's just been getting absolutely decimated in these hearings. And you know, in our attempt to make sure that we're not letting people forget history, because the right's going to do everything they can to make sure that you know, that these things will be talked about. Now, there's a rumor that's been flying around the Twitterverse about the administration is continually growing, you know, anxious about Pete Hegseth as the Secretary of Defense. He is without question the most incompetent person to ever hold that position. He may be one of the most incompetent individuals to ever hold a cabinet seat. Linda McMahon still gets my vote, but this guy is just ridiculous. So this is Pat Ryan who's questioning him during this particular series of you know, basically come before us, because we still hold oversight, and address some of these things. And again, the TikTok sound is not great when you try to play it, but I'll do my best to navigate for you.
There was a pop-up shop selling MAGA merchandise on post at Fort Bragg. And to summarize this, there was a commander from Bragg who said on the record, quote, "This has been a bad week for the Army. For anyone who cares about us being a neutral institution, this was shameful." If those are the facts, and I know the Army is investigating at least the MAGA pop-up shop, is that appropriate, General Kane?
Sir, I haven't seen any of these reports. You know, I'm not familiar with them, but as I mentioned earlier and in my confirmation hearing, you know, the nation demands a apolitical, nonpartisan military.
I appreciate you saying that, and happy to share those reports. Secretary Hegseth, are you familiar with DoD Directive 1344.10? Political activities of the members of the armed forces?
First off, I don't buy into your insinuation that pledges are being done under this administration. That's
I reclaim my time. Are you familiar with this DoD directive?
There's never one time in my service or in this Defense Department.
Will you please answer
I'm answering your
these
questions where politics has been considered for service members.
Are you familiar with this directive? Yes or no?
Which directive?
DoD Directive 1344.10. I'm happy to provide you a copy. There's even a one-page red and green cheat sheet. Are you familiar with it? This is the same directive from when we were all in uniform.
I'm sure I am.
Has anything changed in that directive under your guidance, given what happened 2 days ago at Fort Bragg? Is there a new policy change that we're not aware of?
Again, I totally reject your insinuation.
Is there a policy change to DoD Directive 1344.10?
I know what you're attempting to insinuate, but there's no policy change and there is no policy.
Mr. Secretary, have you ever worn a MAGA hat in front of the troops?
I own plenty of MAGA hats, but I don't.
Have you ever worn one in front of the troops at an official event? I don't believe so. I don't believe so. Do you think it's appropriate for the President of the United States to wear political merchandise, including a MAGA hat, at official events, including West Point commencement?
The Commander-in-Chief,
yes or no,
can wear whatever hat he wants, to include the phrase "Make America Great Again," because I would like to make America great again as well.
So you think that's appropriate?
The Commander-in-Chief has the right, in front of his troops, to wear whatever he'd like.
His troops.
Okay, I strongly disagree with you. And I urge you both, especially you, General Kane, as we see an increasingly political...
Just want to pause right there for a second. His troops? No. No, they're not his. They're not his troops. They're not his troops. Okay.
Rhetoric, including from the Secretary, to please, for the good of our troops, this is an incredibly difficult moment, and we need leaders like you to continue to echo the apolitical nature. I have 12 seconds. Mr. Secretary, I don't say this lightly. I have to say this on the record. I think your tenure as Secretary of Defense has been shameful and weak, and you should resign. I yield back.
Gentleman's time's expired. Here, and I recognize gentleman from Texas, Mr. Fallon.
Yeah. Right. I love that you're fine. I mean, I pay attention to these hearings, and sometimes I don't know if you all do, but C-SPAN, a lot of this stuff gets covered, some of it doesn't. But I kind of look for these clips because I really like to see our political space is obviously filled with rhetoric, and partisan sound bites. We know that's true, but these things call into question just the legality. Our military is supposed to be apolitical, right? And we've seen Mr. Trump blur the lines without question time and time and time again. Don't forget about the statement regarding the parade. No fat soldiers. I want to make sure I've got Trump loyalists. They're going to take a loyalty pledge. And no, the United States military are not his troops. They are there to defend the Constitution, not him. They are there to defend the Constitution. They take an oath to the Constitution, not to the office of the presidency, not to an individual, not to a man. They are there to defend the Constitution. Therefore, if they belong to anybody, they belong to all of us. And I like what he said. Straight up, you need to resign. You need to resign. He is absolutely incompetent, incapable, and a fucking disgrace. Alyssa Slotkin, not to be outdone. She also is someone who I have gained a lot of respect for during the last couple of years, just because when the way in which she speaks and how she calls it out is just great. Again, more on the same committee. This is the Armed Services Committee, and Alyssa Slotkin lets him have it.
Radical. Have you authorized the uniformed military to detain or arrest protesters in Los Angeles?
Slotkin's about to eat them up.
Senator, I would just start by saying you're not a protester if you're throwing concrete
100%.
at law
Arrest those
enforcement
people.
officers.
Throw them in the jail. 100%. But what you're doing is something different. Everyone knows this is a political decision, right? So we don't trust that you're using the best interests of the military, certainly, and of democracy on top of that. So have you given the order? That's all I want to know. It's not theoretical. For the U.S. military, not law enforcement. They can arrest all day long. That's the job. Do they have the ability, the uniformed military, to arrest and detain protesters currently today?
Watch this weak man stutter.
It's a yes or no thing. Authority.
It's sort of amusing the extent to which the speculation is out there. These troops are given very clear orders.
Then what is the order? Then list it out for us. Be a man. List it out. If you authorize them to detain or arrest, that is a fundamental issue of democracy. I'm not trying to be a snot here. I'm just trying to get the
now I want to see her when she's trying to be one.
All of these orders and what they're sent there to do are public.
So say it. So say it. Yes or no?
I'd like to.
Please, yes or no?
As I've said time and time again through interruption, they're there to protect law enforcement.
Do they have
ICE
the ability
officers
to arrest?
who are trying to do their job, deporting illegals who were allowed in by the previous administration.
So they cannot arrest and detain citizens of the United States, the uniformed military.
As we've stated, if necessary, in their own self-defense, they could temporarily detain and hand over to ICE. But there's no arresting going on. And you know this.
Wow.
You're trying to play political games. There's no arresting of U.S. who are trying to do their
Listen to this part again.
deporting illegals who were allowed in by the previous
So
administration.
they cannot arrest and detain citizens of the United States, the uniformed military.
As we've stated, if necessary, in their own self-defense, they could temporarily detain and hand over to ICE. But there's no arresting.
Temporary. You heard it, right? So if the orders are public, again, the National Guard, the U.S. military, they don't have law enforcement. They don't have law enforcement guidance. They're not allowed to just arrest and detain, right? Okay? So they don't have arresting powers. And all she tried to do is say, listen, where's the order? Numerous times he said it over and over again. It's public information. So what's the fucking order? Have you or have you not? And then he's caught. And because he is just a face to look strong, exactly right, hand over to ice, because he's just a face to look good, because he looks good on TV, because he's been trained media savvy. He knows how to navigate an interview. But now he's being grilled. And because he is a Trump loyalist white nationalist who doesn't give a fuck about women, obviously, you could hear the way he responds to her questioning that he has a disdain for women. Somebody said that in the chat too. And now he's caught. And just this part again is interesting.
Going on.
You authorize the U.S. military
There's no
to use
arresting
cyber
of U.S.
tools
personnel.
of the U.S. military against members of the protest. Have you authorized U.S. military cyber tools to investigate people participating in these protests? Yes or no?
Certainly in no way that I'd be aware of.
Okay, that's good.
There's a lot he's not aware
That's
of.
great. Have you given the order to be able to shoot at unarmed protesters in any way? I'm just asking the question. Don't laugh. Like the whole country. And by the way, my colleagues
What is
across
that
the
based
aisle.
on? What evidence would you
It
have
is
that an
based
order
on
like that has
Donald
ever
Trump
been given?
giving that order to your predecessor, to a Republican Secretary of Defense, who I give a lot of credit to because he didn't accept the order. He had more guts and balls than you because he said, I'm not going to send in the uniformed military to do something that I know in my gut isn't right. He was asked to shoot at their legs. He wrote that in his book. That's not hearsay. So your poo-pooing of this, it just shows you don't understand who we are as a country. Who we are. And all of my colleagues across the aisle, especially the ones that serve, should want an apolitical military and not want citizens to be scared of their own military. I love the military. I served alongside my whole life, so I'm worried about you tainting it. Have you given the order? Have you given the order that they can use lethal force against honor? I want the answer to be no. Please tell me it's no. Have you given the order?
Senator, I'd be careful what you read in books and believing it, except for the Bible.
And there it is, friends. I'd be careful what you read in books, except for the Bible. I would love to have a conversation with a card-carrying MAGA acolyte, a sincere and earnest conversation about that topic and that topic alone. My new approach to this thing is going to say, I would like you to consider the hypothetical. Okay? I would like you to consider the hypothetical where Ted Cruz is the person who's interviewing, name any Democratic, it could be anybody. It could be, let's say Rachel Maddow, because apparently media experience is what's necessary. Let's say it's Rachel Maddow. Or Jen Psaki is now the Secretary of Defense. Have you been ordered? Have you placed the order? Have you ordered your troops to arrest? Can the troops that you've authorized to be in Omaha, Nebraska, or pick any red city, whatever it is, have you authorized them to be able to use the power to arrest, and then have Rachel or Jen pivot the way in which he did? You guys would be losing your fucking shit. Did you authorize the military, Secretary Maddow, to use rubber bullets to quell the rioters or the protesters? Well, you should don't believe everything you read in a book. Only believe what you've read in my book, or the book, or the Quran, or whatever it might be. That's what you're going, at least that's what I'm going to be doing. That's what you got to be able to answer. Well, that's just hypothetical. Exactly. Because your guy's not going to be in power forever. So when the shoe is on the other foot, how are you going to respond to that? Are you just going to sit here and laugh? Now you've gotten a win. You want to call it a win? You think it's a win that the National Guard has been in Trump's, I can't call it illegal anymore because the judges have said, but Trump using the power that he has in our system to federalize the National Guard? You're okay with that because it suits your narrative. And this goes back to the question that we have a lot, right? The question we have, if you believe the president has this authority, to use the words, again, of Pete Hegseth, listen to this.
Man, it's shameful.
Your former predecessor. I guess that's not enough for you. Okay.
Listen to this.
Everyone knows this is a political decision. right? So we don't trust that you're using the best interests of the military, certainly, and of democracy on top of that. So have you given the order? That's all I want to know. It's not theoretical. For the U.S. military, not law enforcement. They can arrest all day long. That's the job. Do they have the ability, the uniformed military, to arrest and detain protesters currently today?
Watch this weak man stutter.
It's a yes or no thing. Authority.
It's sort of amusing the extent to which the speculation is out there. These troops are given very clear orders.
Then what is the order? Then list it out for us. Be a man. List it out. If you authorize them to detain or arrest, that is a fundamental issue of democracy. I'm not trying to be a snot here. I'm just trying to.
Ooh, now I want to see her when she's trying to be one.
All of these orders and what they're sent there to do are public. They are
okay,
there
so say it. So say it. Yes or no?
I'd like to.
Please, yes or no?
As I've said time and time again through interruption, they're there to protect law enforcement.
Do they have
protect law enforcement? Okay, so here's the scenario. So all of a sudden, because there are protests in Los Angeles or any Democratic city, as the president has come out and said, any Democratic city, they're there to protect law enforcement. Okay, if that's the argument you want to make, okay, they're there to protect law enforcement, back up law enforcement. The problem is if that were really, really true, then why the fuck was the National Guard not called in immediately by the President of the United States on January 6, 2021 at the Capitol? Why is that? Because law enforcement was being attacked significantly worse than they were in LA. The issue is, MAGA, TJ, Justins of the world, it's because what's happening in LA goes against what you believe. What's happening in LA is you like the fact that ICE is rounding up people. You like the fact that ICE is violating people's constitutional rights. You like the fact that your president can act like a strong man, like a tough guy. You love that shit. You don't like it when the protesters the rioters, insurrectionist traitors in DC on January 6th, they were there to support you. They were there. They aligned with your beliefs. They aligned with what Donald Trump told you, that the election was rigged. That's why. Those people were actual insurrectionist traitors. Violent act or uprising against a government or authority. Insurrectionist traitors. Confessed in many cases, convicted in many others, beating up police officers. 140 officers assaulted that day, led to their death in many cases, or self-unaliving because of what they saw and what they witnessed and what they had to experience. Confessed, went to jail, and every single one was pardoned. So here's a question, again, hypothetically speaking. Anybody in LA who was a rioter, like you call them a rioter, who was either convicted of something similar, would they get pardoned by the president? Of course they wouldn't. Of course they wouldn't. You cannot be consistent. I would like you to be able to address that without your bullshit. We know who is the commander-in-chief of the DC National Guard. We know that. And based on a court ruling, we now know the president has unilateral authority, apparently, to send in the Guard. How is it that you can try to justify it? What's the BS? Maybe I missed your point, Aylin. I'm assuming you're on our side, or on the side of democracy, I should say. Just be consistent. Just make it make sense. Just make it make sense. You support things that are in violation of the law as long as it aligns with your ideology, but you oppose them. I thought you were, but you oppose them when it goes against your narrative. Are you now starting to see why we call you hypocrites? Logically inconsistent, right? Inability to be objective. Right? It shouldn't be that difficult. If you believe something, then believe it. I believe that the government was weaponized against Donald Trump. Okay. Then do you believe the government was weaponized against Joe Biden? Do you believe the government was weaponized against people who are protesting? Do you believe that university people being rounded up, U.S. citizens, do you believe the government's weaponized against them? Do you believe that citizens being pulled off of college campuses because they're protesting? Do you believe the government's being weaponized against them? Do you believe when Donald Trump says we're going to go after Democratic cities? Do you believe that's weaponization of government? If your answer is anything but yes, then we're going to call you a hypocrite. That's why. I've got to find that True Social post because it's the whole story, and this is the one that I want us to immortalize because this is the one that is the most dangerous of all of them. Oh, here's this first. Okay, this just recently posted on True Social.
Zero border crossings for the month for Trump versus 60,000 for sleepy, crooked Joe Biden, a man who lost the 2020 presidential election by a landslide, in all caps. F1 in the chat because we're spewing Trump's nonsense. Who lost the 2020 election by a landslide. Biden was grossly incompetent, and the 2020 election was a total fraud. The evidence is massive and overwhelming. A special prosecutor must be appointed. This cannot be allowed to happen again in the United States of America. Let the work begin. What this crooked man and his corrupt cronies have done to our country in 4 years is grossly indescribable. Make America great again.
He can't let 2020 go, friends. He can't. He can't accept the fact that he lost, which is part of the strategy for putting us in war because he wants a win. He's always fantasized about being a wartime president because he's going to try to find anything that's a win for him. He's getting hammered in the polls he's getting hammered in the polls unless they're Canadian steel polls. Right? So he can't. You have a question, Karen? What's your question? Feel free to ask. If you want to jump in the box, you can ask the question, or you can just type in the chat, and I'll try to address it for you. All right, I got to find that post because it tells the whole story, and we now know that the appellate court saying that basically he's got the ability to call in the National Guard more or less whenever he sees fit. Well, the impact is what I'm about to read to you. It's long. Most of you have heard it before, but first of all, I'll get back to that. I'll get back to this in a second, but let me focus on this one thing at a time. Namaste. Okay. I'll find it. Hold on, because I think it's the whole story, specifically because of the language that he's used, and I don't want this to be forgotten about because. Now it's the crooked news, the crooked Fox News poll. Okay, whatever. Hold on. I'm almost there. He's got so much. When he starts truthing like crazy, there's something afoot. Doggy, what's the matter? My dog's frustrated because it's been nothing but rain for the past couple of days here. So he's like, how come we can't go outside? We're going outside in a minute. Everybody keep tapping. I got to find it. I had it pinned, and then I lost it. But just give me a moment. Bear with me. Talk amongst yourselves. Unconditional surrender. No. I know that one. Complete and total skies. That's a lie. That's a lie too. That's a lie too. Where is it? Stand by. Almost there. The reason I'm taking the time to go through this is because based on what the appellate court has told us today, and based on his own rhetoric about what it means to be the law and order president, and the language that he uses addresses exactly what we were just talking about. So I think I've got it. I think it's right. Okay, here we go. All right. So this is what he posted the other day, right? In response to not only what Pete Hegseth said, but in his own words. Oops, sorry, that's not what I want. Wrong button. Here we go.
Our nation's ICE officers have shown incredible strength, determination, and courage as they facilitate a very important mission, the largest mass deportation operation of illegal aliens in history. Every day, the brave men and women of ICE are subjected to violence, harassment, and even threats from radical Democrat politicians. But nothing will stop us from executing our mission and fulfilling our mandate to the American people. ICE officers are herewith ordered by notice of this truth to do all in their power to achieve the very important goal of delivering the single largest mass deportation program in history. In order to achieve this, we must expand efforts to detain and deport illegal aliens in America's largest cities, such as Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York. What do they have in common, friends? Where millions upon millions of illegal aliens reside. These and other such cities are the core of the Democrat power center, where they use illegal aliens to expand their voter base, cheat in elections, and grow the welfare state, robbing good-paying jobs and benefits from hard-working American citizens. These radical left Democrats are sick of mind, hate our country, and actually want to destroy our inner cities. Nice dog whistle. And they are doing a good job of it. There's something wrong with them. That is why they believe in open borders, transgender for everybody, and men playing in women's sports. And that is why I want ICE, Border Patrol, and our great patriotic law enforcement officers to focus on our crime-ridden and deadly inner cities. Another dog whistle. And those places where sanctuary cities play such a big role. You don't hear about sanctuary cities in our heartland. Yeah, because y'all are fucking racist. I want our brave ICE officers to know that real Americans are cheering you on every day. The American people want our cities, schools, and communities to be safe and free from illegal alien crime and conflict. Safe and free, by the way, in all caps. Safe and free from illegal alien crime, conflict, and chaos. That's why I have directed my entire administration to put every resource possible behind this effort and reverse the tide of mass destruction migration that has turned once idyllic towns into scenes of third world dystopia. Our federal government will continue to be focused on remigration of aliens to the places from where they came and preventing the admission of anyone who undermines the domestic tranquility of the United States. To ICE, FBI, DEI, ATF, and the patriots at the Pentagon and State Department, you have my unwavering support. Now, go get the job done, in all caps. DJT.
So, that's the tell, right? You identify New York, Chicago, LA, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, Detroit, all these cities, because again, we know the majority of metropolitan areas vote Democrat. Because why? Because of diversity. Because we appreciate diversity and we respect it. So now it doesn't matter whether or not you're an illegal alien, in their words. It doesn't matter what you are. If you are in opposition, therefore speaking out against the government, using your constitutionally protected right, you are part of the problem, and you've been identified as such. I didn't see your question. I'm sorry. Again, yeah, right, but not Houston. Exactly. Not calling out Houston. Not calling out Orlando. Not calling out Dallas, DFW, right? You see the point now? The issue that we have is the fact that you are, how do I say it? Miami, although Miami-Dade County ended up going to Trump, which I think you're going to see a big shift back because of the Cuban population being like, what the fuck? This isn't what we signed up for. What can be done if the speaker refuses to certify the election in 2028? It's a fair question. Depends how the speaker is, right? I'll address that big picture again in a second, Karen. But this is the issue, right? And actually, you know what? Let's talk about that right now. Part of the lie that you were told, whether it be the Green Bay sweep or John Eastman and his bullshit, or Peter Navarro, a.k.a. Ron Vero, telling you that the vice president has the ability to send votes back to the legislature. And you believe that the corruption existed in the Biden-Harris administration, that for some particular reason, even though they weren't in charge, it was their fault that Trump lost the 2020 election. If that were true, if all of that were true, then why didn't Kamala Harris, who was the vice president, who has the constitutional authority to certify the election, why didn't she do the same? Why didn't she say, you know what, too many issues. Actually, I'm declaring myself the winner. Game over. Why didn't she do that? And to your bigger question, Karen, that's constitutionality, right? That's why democracies require, same thing with Al Gore, you're right. That's why democracy requires people who want to uphold the law. It requires sincerity and integrity. It takes people at the end of the day. Because she can't. Well, she could have. I know she can't, Aylin, but she could have in the minds of Trump supporters when it came to Mike Pence. Mike Pence could have done that. Then if Mike Pence could have done it, then Kamala Harris could have done it. That's the point. Dishonesty. I didn't say you were a Trump helper. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying that's the issue. So if that were the case, then just be consistent with your arguments. That's all. That's all. Just be consistent. So then this goes back to what we were just discussing. Like if we're going to have, no one should want the National Guard and or the U.S. military, the Marines, for example, to be federalized in regards to law enforcement. It's not something they have. Their law enforcement is not something that they're authorized to do. They're there, as Pete had said, to back up law enforcement. Okay, then why the fuck were they not there in D.C.? You guys don't have an argument for that. You just don't. You're going to try to spin it and turn it into and everything you say is so easy to debunk. So easy. It is so easy to debunk. All you have to do is look at the chain of command. So if the president has the authority, questionably, to federalize the National Guard in California, and he doesn't even have in the chain of command a direct line to chain of command, that goes through the governor. So we know that now from the court ruling, right? Whereas they, the office of the president, not Trump, the office of the president, the POTUS, has direct commander-in-chief over the D.C. National Guard. Why were they not there on January 6th? And again, I'll stand by my argument because in L.A., it's opposition to Trump administration policies, and in January 6, 2021, everyone is there to support Trump. That's the difference. Just accept. Oh yeah, but Pelosi, right? That's why we're looking for objectivity. It shouldn't be that much of a stretch for you guys to be at least a little bit objective when it comes to that conversation. Try to spin it. Try to spin it. If you believe the president has the ability to order the National Guard to blue states, sanctuary cities, then you've got to believe the same thing about D.C. You can't spin it. You can't spin away from it. So instead, just try being objective. That's all we're asking. I don't think that's a lot to ask. All right, let me see what else I have here. I covered that. I covered that one. I'm going to read a little bit about Elizabeth Warren did a breakdown of some of the blatant corruption of Elon Musk. We've moved past Elon a little bit, but there's going to be some lingering effects of what was done and or said. If I play this one, I played that. Yeah, I covered that. Okay, Marco Rubio. Again, we're on the same topic of the ability for people in the administration now to, first of all, many of them forgot that the internet is forever. Many of them forgot that they have, there's a record of things that they've stated previously. So this is an interesting exchange, okay? Words matter, semantics matter, and the way in which a person asks a question and answers a question tells you a lot. So he's being questioned by Representative Keating in one of their numerous hearings, again, because Congress still does have oversight over the administration. That's part of what our Constitution says in Article 1. So this is just an interesting line of questioning. I'll play the sound for you, and then we can talk about it. So this is Representative Keating questioning Marco Rubio.
Putin. Is he a war criminal?
Well, I think you can look at instances that have happened there and certainly characterize them as war crimes, but our intent is to end the war.
Is he a war criminal?
We can't end the war without talking to Mr. Putin.
That's pretty simple. Is he a war criminal?
Well, that's
this man we're negotiating with, Vladimir Putin. Is he a war criminal? That's not tough.
But what? I'm trying to answer your question by telling you that we're trying to end the war here.
Go ahead.
No, it's not a simple answer.
You are equivocating, sir. Just answer the question.
I'm answering your question, and the answer is that war crimes have been committed, no doubt. And who's responsible for that? There will be time and place for that accountability. But right now, the job is to end the war.
So you won't answer the question.
If we don't end the war, people are going to get
reclaiming my time, sir. Let me go on. Because I don't understand this. Because you're sitting in front of us now as Secretary of State. It wasn't long ago that you were sitting as a senator with Secretary of State nominee Rex Tillerson at the time, in the exact same circumstances, only reversed.
Let me ask you this question. Is Vladimir Putin a war criminal?
I would not use that term.
And you question him about Putin directing attacks against schools, markets, hospitals, playgrounds, and on top of this, in this instance, he's abducted 20,000 children, a clear war crime.
Mr. Putin has directed his military to conduct a devastating...
This is now Marco Rubio questioning Rex Tillerson. What do the secretaries of state have in common in this regard? Rex Tillerson was nominated by Donald Trump to be his Secretary of State. Trump administration sniffing the taint of Russia, Vladimir Putin in particular, they're answering the same fucking script. Marco Rubio, as a senator, questioning Rex Tillerson in a series, asking me a very direct question. Is Vladimir Putin a war criminal? And then listen to how Rubio grills him on the same thing that he's now being grilled on.
Campaign, he's targeted schools, markets, not just assisted the Syrians in doing it. His military has targeted schools and markets and other civilian infrastructure. It's resulted in the death of thousands of civilians. This is not the first time Mr. Putin is involved in campaigns of this kind.
So you were very clear then Vladimir Putin was a war criminal. Wow. Now you're unmaking him a war criminal, and you won't answer the question about the exact same circumstances.
You're putting words in my mouth. So, based on all this information and what's publicly in the record about what's happened in Aleppo and the Russian military, you are still not prepared to say that Vladimir Putin and his military have violated the rules of war and have conducted war crimes.
Putting words in my mouth.
And you know what you said to Secretary Tillerson at the end of his answer when he equivocated just as you are right now?
It should not be hard to say that Vladimir Putin's military has conducted war crimes in Aleppo, because it is never acceptable, you would agree, for a military to specifically target civilians, which is what's happened there through the Russian military.
I'll give you a second chance. Is Vladimir Putin a war criminal?
I already told you war crimes have been committed.
No, you didn't tell me if he's a war criminal.
Mr. Chairman, am I allowed to answer questions?
I'm reclaiming my time, sir, and listen. I'm using your own words so you don't have to answer. Did you know what you said to then nominee Secretary of State Tillerson?
And, I find it discouraging, your inability to cite that, which I think is globally accepted.
Your words, we don't need any more. You're inconsistent.
Okay. Objectivity. When you are the person who is reviewing your job of advise and consent to nominations to the various cabinet positions, Supreme Courts as a senator, that's your constitutional duty. You are grilling Rex Tillerson, who was a Trump nominee for the same position, Secretary of State, the position that you now have. You were very clear in your questions. Is Vladimir Putin a war criminal? The answer is, without question, yes. No doubt about it. Instead, he answered the exact same way that Rex Tillerson did. Well, there's been war crimes committed. Who did them we'll leave that up to debate. The exact same way. And he would not let Tillerson off the hook. Like, I can't believe that you're not answering these questions. Listen to this sound again, friends. Mind-boggling.
Is he a war criminal?
Well, I think you can look at instances that have happened there and certainly characterize them as war crimes, but our intent is to end the war.
Is he a war criminal?
We can't end the war without talking to Mr. Putin.
It's pretty simple. Is he a war criminal?
Well, that's
this man we're negotiating with, Vladimir Putin. Is he a war criminal? That's not tough.
What? I'm trying to answer your question by telling you that we're trying to end the war here.
Go ahead.
No, it's not a simple answer.
You are equivocating, sir. Just answer the question.
I'm answering your question, and the answer is that war crimes have been committed, no doubt. And who's responsible for that? There will be time and place for that accountability. But right now, the job is to end the war.
So you won't answer the question. If we don't end the war,
people are going to get
reclaiming my time, sir. Let me go on. Because I don't understand this. Because you're sitting in front of us now as Secretary of State. It wasn't long ago that you were sitting as a senator with Secretary of State nominee Rex Tillerson at the time, in the exact same circumstances, only reversed.
Let me ask you this question. Is Vladimir Putin...
This is now Rubio, Senator Rubio, questioning Tillerson.
Putin a war criminal?
I would not use that term.
And you question him about Putin directing attacks against schools, markets, hospitals, playgrounds, And on top of this, in this instance, he's abducted 20,000 children, a clear war crime.
Mr. Putin has directed his military to conduct a devastating campaign. He's targeted schools, markets, not just assisted the Syrians in doing it. His military has targeted schools and markets and other civilian infrastructure. It's resulted in the death of thousands of civilians. This is not the first time Mr. Putin is involved in campaigns of this kind.
So you were very clear then Vladimir Putin was a war criminal. Now you're unmaking him a war criminal, and you won't answer the question about the exact same circumstances.
You're putting words in my mouth.
So based on all this information and what's publicly in the record about what's happened in Aleppo and the Russian military, you are still not prepared to say that Vladimir Putin and his military have violated the rules of war and have conducted war crimes.
Putting words in my mouth.
And you know what you said to Secretary Tillerson at the end of his answer when he equivocated just as you are right now?
It should not be hard to say that Vladimir Putin's military has conducted war crimes in Aleppo, because it is never acceptable, you would agree, for a military to specifically target civilians, which is what's happened there through the Russian military.
I'll give you a second chance. Is Vladimir Putin a war criminal?
I already told you war crimes have been committed.
No, you didn't tell me if he's a war criminal.
Mr. Chairman, am I allowed to answer questions?
I'm reclaiming my time, sir, and listen. I'm using your own words so you don't have to answer. Did you know what you said to then nominee Secretary of State Tillerson?
And, I find it discouraging, your inability to cite that, which I think is globally accepted.
Your words, we don't need any more. You're inconsistent.
The piece that stands out to me the most is that, again, language matters. Marco Rubio connected the dots. He connected in the same sentence. He used war crimes and Vladimir Putin. He called it out. He pressed Rex Tillerson. He pressed Rex Tillerson on the accepted belief that Vladimir Putin is a war criminal. Okay, accept that belief, and he answered as such, and he questioned as such. And then when asked the exact same question, he did not connect Vladimir Putin and these war crimes. He just said war crimes have obviously been committed. Who's responsible? We'll find out later. Once again, objectivity. Once again, how can you accept it? Once again, I know, and there's people, and there's Democrats who agreed with Marco Rubio's appointment, which again, they're fucking conservatives, vote their asses out too. You got to be consistent. You can't have it both ways. When the person that you cheered for, little Marco, to become the Secretary of State, refused to answer these questions, the exact same fucking questions that he asked when he was in the position to grill cabinet nominees. Don't be so obviously inconsistent, intellectually dishonest, etc. It's crazy. What's the matter, buddy? Come here. Yeah, we're still getting thunderstorms and Kipper does not like thunderstorms, apparently. All right, this is interesting. Did a little bit of research on this because the racism is showing from the twice impeached, 4-time indicted, sexually abusing frauds or convicted felon. I'll take a break on The Voice for now. This was 15 hours ago. 15 hours ago, which would have put us into Juneteenth. Remember that. Too many non-working holidays in America. It is costing our country billions of dollars to keep all of these businesses closed. The workers don't want it either. Soon we'll end up having a holiday for every once working day of the year. It must change if we are going to make America great again. So I just did a little bit of research on what we have for holidays in our country. In my opinion, we don't have nearly enough because of certain things, but I'm going to use the federal bank holidays. Okay? Federal bank holidays. Now, we're all workers. Do we feel like we have too many holidays? So let's go through the list. These are the generally accepted federal holidays that are connected to banking holidays. Some states have different things. Some states and or companies might extend a holiday, but these are the federal banking holidays. Anybody, when I read through these, see if anybody has an objection, since apparently according to him, the workers don't want it either. So that's us. All right. New Year's Day, January 1st. Anybody have an issue with having that day off? Anybody? Okay, cool. MLK Day, which is the third Monday in January. Anybody have an issue with having that day off? Okay, cool, excellent. President's Day, third Monday in February. Anybody have an issue with having that day off? Oftentimes it aligns with school vacations. Anybody have an issue with having that holiday off? Good to know. Memorial Day, how about that one? In remembrance of people who've served our nation. Anybody have an issue with having that day off? That's the last Monday in May. Anybody? Okay, cool. Juneteenth, National Independence Day or Freedom Day, now a federal holiday, June 19th of every year. Anybody have an issue if that were to fall on a weekday, having that day off? The president does, apparently, because why would you put out that ill-timed truth or whatever the fuck it is? Independence Day. Anybody have an issue with having July 4th off? Anybody? Okay. Again, these are bank holidays. So this is not like a company holiday. These are bank holidays. Labor Day. Anybody have an issue with that? Anybody have an issue with the first Monday in September? Falls on my birthday this year. I was born on Labor Day, which I think it's hilarious. I don't think my mother thought that was so funny, but anybody have an issue with having Labor Day off so we can celebrate people? The reason we have weekends off, the reason we have 40-hour work weeks, the reason we have protections at work are because of labor unions. Anybody have an issue with having that day off? Okay, cool. Columbus Day and or Indigenous Peoples Day, depending on where you live, second Monday in October. Anybody have an issue with having that day off? No? Okay, good to know. Veterans Day, where we honor those who've served in support of our veteran community. November 11th, every year. Thanksgiving Day, anybody have an issue with having Thanksgiving off? And oftentimes, banks sometimes are closed the day after, Black Friday. Sometimes businesses will extend their Thanksgiving Day break. Sometimes it's a half day on Wednesday, and then you get Thursday and Friday off. And then Christmas Day, December 25th. Anybody have an issue with that? Christians, do you guys want to start working on Christmas? Because you have too many days off, right? So apparently we have too many. So you should just go to work on those days, right? If a holiday falls on a Saturday, it's often observed on the preceding Friday. If it falls on a Sunday, typically observed the following Monday. Some private bank and credit unions may have limited hours or remain open on certain federal holidays like Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day, and or Veterans Day. Stock markets, NASDAQ, and the New York Stock Exchange typically follow the same holiday schedule. They would have to, just because banks and the stock market are one in this, oftentimes have to coexist. So what's the issue? Oh, I know what the issue is. I know. It's because Trump's a racist. That's why. Where is the comment on post-Memorial Day? Where is the comment post-Veterans Day? Where is the comment connected to anything around, I don't know, any other holiday? But because Juneteenth is now a bank holiday, yes. Makes perfect sense now. Makes perfect sense. Nothing to see here at all. So I'm grateful that the state that I live in is now, Columbus Day is now officially known as Indigenous Peoples Day. And when I was in corporate America, we lobbied to have Juneteenth added to the days off calendar that our employees got every single year. And our employees were grateful for that. So I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. Oh, it's his racism. Got it. Good morning, sir. How are you today?
I am dandy.
I think we need a new. This is going to be your intro. There you go.
Hey now.
Okay. Hey now.
In that quote you read, something struck me.
Okay.
And I'm just preparing for what's coming in the reasonably near future. When he said, and I'm paraphrasing, obviously, working people don't want this many holidays.
Yeah, the workers don't want it either. Yeah.
Workers don't want it either. We are now going to see a glut of MAGA cultists who are blue collar, absolutely saying, we don't want this many holidays. And that's what Fox and OAN and all those are gonna harp on, saying, see, here's the proof. Because the cult members agree with the cult leader, that's indicative that no, we shouldn't have, Martin Luther King Day or Juneteenth. We're going to eliminate those. And I'm certainly old enough to remember when we got both Washington's birthday and Lincoln's birthday off, and then they combined those to President's Day.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and when I was a kid, I was like, hey, we're losing a holiday. I was a kid in school, not even a worker. And we're losing a day. Then Martin Luther King Day is added, and most businesses don't seem to recognize that. Banks do, but most businesses don't recognize that as a holiday on their calendar, or Juneteenth.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the timing is not a coincidence.
I agree.
It's not a coincidence.
No, I completely agree. And, and let's assume for argument's sake it is a coincidence. It's a really bad look.
Absolutely.
Why would you give our side a point to argue? Are you so dumb?
Good point.
Are you so dumb that you think we're not going to take that ball and run?
Why would you throw fuel on the fire of obviously us making numerous connections to your blatant racism throughout your entire life? You could have done it in 2 weeks' time. You could have done it around a different holiday to say, I'm a racist. I don't want to let anybody know. I don't want to talk about it in terms of Juneteenth. So let's just pick a random holiday. We can't use 4th of July because that's Independence Day. We can't use Veterans Day, even though I hate veterans. We can't use Memorial Day for the same reason. Let's pick an abstract one. Okay, President's Day. Then I can make it about myself too. So then I can fool them because they'll think I'm saying, well, we don't need President's Day off, and I'm the president thinking we don't need that day off. I'll convince them of such so I can be racist without letting them know.
Yeah, and we know, we know.
Yeah, we know. We know exactly. We know.
They wonder why I miss drinking.
You're right. You're right. You're right. It's a fair call out. I mean, this is where we sit now, right? Yeah, and then the right wants to say, why do you guys make everything about race? I'm like, I don't want to make everything about race, but the only demographic in our country that supported Trump with significant numbers was white men. So the reason we bring up fucking race is because we're fucking responsible for it. It's so funny that I did a video about this yesterday and I showed the exit polls, and so many people jumped in and say, well, then you're part of the problem too. I'm like, yeah, exactly. And instead of being so triggered by this, instead of people saying, you should look at the comments, you'll see, if you go to my videos, I think it's the most recent one after the promotion for today's, it's just myself with my handsome face with the screen grab of the election results based on demographics behind me. And so many of the comments are in there from people saying, this is not the way to bring voters back to the fold. And I'm thinking, well, if that's the way you think, then you're part of the fucking problem. Why not just accept the fact that we, white men, palm-colored males like myself and Rusty, are the ones that are on the collective? See, he's not triggered by this because he knows it. We are the ones that are holding society back. Yes, white women too, but thankfully at least they weren't in the majority. But guess what? White women are second in line. Do I have that picture? I can even show you guys what I'm talking about. Don't get so goddamn triggered by everything. It's right here. Here you go.
Yep.
Yeah, you see? Look at men. Right? Red. And then if you go all the way to the bottom, I don't know if you can see the bottom, but look, it's not hyperbole right there. Come on. The only demographic of that list, the only one. Rusty's not offended.
Nope.
Because he knows it. I'm not offended. If you're offended, then maybe there's a reason why you should unpack it a little bit. It's right there. So look at the split. Okay? Men, women, Republican. Men, overwhelmingly so, Republican. And women, it's pretty damn close. Every other demographic. Everyone. Except for white men. Numbers don't lie, sorry to tell you. If you don't like it, I don't fucking give a shit. Do better. Do better. That's why we talk about this every single day. I'd love to be able to have conversations that didn't have to necessarily always be rooted in race. But guess what? Guess what? Because our entire fucking country is built through the lens of white supremacy. The entire system. Capitalism, banking, higher education, you name it. The entire fucking system. So you're triggered by this? Good. I hope you are. Maybe it'll be an opportunity to be a bit more reflective. Numbers don't lie. It's right there. You're not bothered by that, are you, Rusty?
No, well, I'm bothered that that's true. I'm bothered by that, but exactly. I'm not bothered by it being pointed out. And I think that's the thing. When they say, what are you making about race? We didn't. It's there. We're pointing it out. We're trying to make a intelligent observation. So maybe you mouth breathers will go, oh, wait, it is about race? Oh, I don't think I believe that. Maybe I should start looking inward and changing. But no, I got my sensitivities up, and now you're making me uncomfortable because I'm a big dumb cracker who doesn't like it pointed out. You want to act with impunity. You want to act like you're under an umbrella of protection where you can say and do anything you want and pretend you're on a moral high ground. And that's just not the way it works. But that's, the ability to look at things like statistics and science and those other devil worshiping things that those guys can't handle. So yeah. No, they're so deeply indoctrinated, have been since they were children. And for some of us who look like you and me, we've seen the light. We're here we go. We're woke. We woke up. We could see that the sleeper has awakened, and we're calling it out. And we're calling it out to people who look like us. Like, guys, over here.
Exactly.
We see the truth. Come on. But they're so caught up in their fucking fifis.
Don't forget, the majority of people in the United States are still of the Caucasian persuasion, right? So when I talk about society being held back, then let's look at the maths, okay? When men, overwhelmingly so, still vote Republican, and women, pretty darn close, and then you look further down, then you find out it's white, then you tell me.
Yeah.
You tell me, right? You tell me. So somebody just asked, this is the electoral map from the last election, and then broken down by demographics. Democrat, Republican, then black, Asian, can't see what the other one is. Hispanic, perhaps, yeah, and white, right? So the largest voting blocks. Again, those stats ain't facts. Them's feelings and opinions. Thank you, Mr. Morley. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Andrew, see, you're the problem too, my guy, because you don't consider yourself a racist. And guess what? If you sit down and break bread with anti-Semites and racist, then apparently it's not a deal breaker for you. So you don't like this. You feel uncomfortable by it too.
Good.
You feel I'm glad. I hope you do feel uncomfortable because you're part of the problem. I'm part of the problem. Rusty's part of the problem. You see how easy that is? Do you see how easy that is? When you're mature and you have the ability to be self-aware and reflect, this is what we find. We find what's holding us back in our system are white people, and primarily men. Just accept it and do something about it and say, if you don't like it, then what are you going to do about it? Instead, you're just going to stick your thumb in your mouth and go cry in the corner and say, oh, they're attacking my white fragility. Yeah. Do something about it. Do something about it.
Absolutely. That they cannot handle the truth. It's just true. Numbers don't lie.
They don't lie. It's been this way forever.
Yeah.
It's been this way forever. This is what you guys are scared about. This is what you're scared about. Because if this number gets closer, if this number instead of 56% becomes 54% or 52%, then you lose your power. It's gone. Those of you that are still stuck in the 51 to 52%, you lose your power. Because look at every other demographic. Every other demographic in America, every other one says no more of this bullshit. No more.
But then it begs the question, what power are they losing? The power to not have health care? The power to, be screwed by the 1%? The power to work yourself into an early grave because you gotta? Exactly. That's what you're going to lose? Oh, shucky darn.
Again, I would love to be, I'm willing to talk about this because I believe it's all men until it's no men. It's all white people until it's no white people. And this proves it out right here. Because these things apply to not only the political space, but just the manosphere. And how white men in particular are the largest perpetrators of crimes against children and women. Okay? So, again, the numbers don't lie. The maths don't lie. It can make you feel uncomfortable. And you know what? I'm glad it makes you feel uncomfortable. I really am. As you are deconstructing your shit, maybe just take a step back and realize it. Because you're going to look at the numbers and say, well, the numbers are wrong. Okay, then find me something that contradicts this, because guess what? This has been like this for a very, very, very long time. Well, every fucking time, we the collective in our society, ask black women to show up to defend democracy, look what they do. You see? Every time. And yes, my God damn it, my chair's all fucked up. Sorry. Every single time we ask black women to show up, they do. Every time. And where the fuck are we? Nope. Every time. Every single time. Every time. I know, they think the stats are propaganda. Why would they continue to show up? Seriously, why would they? Why would they? I wouldn't. Unfortunately, they have to, because their lives are under threat every day. And why? And from whom? White men. White women too, but mostly white men. This map is this is the 2024 U.S. electoral. This is how people voted, the demographic breakdown. And these are all the states. This is what happened in our election. Right? So, again, I don't know what to tell people. This is voting. These are the election result. These are the voting tendencies from these groups. You can see it. Yeah. I mean, come on. Don't be surprised. And when you see don't forget about where the assaults are coming from, right? The attacks on the Trump administration are going after cities like New York. Okay, gee, wow, I wonder why. Chicago and Illinois, gee, I wonder why. California, gee, I wonder why. Why do you think it is? You want to suppress the vote in those. You want to arrest people. You are afraid of voters. You want more white men voting because you are afraid that if it came down to policy without voter suppression tactics and bullshit, you'd lose. I'm telling you right now, this number goes from 56 to 53% and everything else stays the same. Democrats control DC. It's that simple.
Yep.
Liberals, progressives. It's that simple. So, anything else on your mind, sir?
Well, no, just... It strikes me that with this in particular, you and I could look at a statistic. Doesn't matter what it is. And we could have a debate as to what the numbers mean, but we don't debate that the numbers exist. You could take
that's what statistical analysis is.
Well, absolutely. But they're not even trying that here. They're not even trying to come up with, we see these numbers and it actually means X, Y, Z. No, they're just saying you're wrong, you're lying, it's propaganda. They know they have no defense whatsoever for it. And take a little, have an intellectually honest moment, take a little ownership, and if you tell yourself, I'm not a bigot, I'm not a racist, I truly in my heart believe that I'm not. But I vote for racist policies. But I vote for the continuation of a racist society. Then you're capitalizing on evil. You just are. Own it.
Correct.
And either say, yeah, I am, don't care, happy that I'm going to do it, and I'm going to continue to, or say, wow, is that actually what I'm doing? I need to deconstruct. And you and I have talked about deconstruction ad nauseum when it comes to like religion or whatnot. But when you're so deep in your own...
When we're not watching rednecks fight. Yes, we do. We do talk about...
Oh, my God. Baked
we do talk about deconstruction a lot. Inside joke. If you know, you know. I'm just saying.
All I got to say is baked beans versus Pookie.
I know. Exactly. I know. No, but you're right. I said this is why these conversations are so important. This is why we find so many people on the right who are Trump voters who are afraid to have it. They want to blame everything on rhetoric from the left, saying all you guys want to do is talk about race. No. It's not like it's all we want to talk about. I wish we didn't have to talk about it, but because of this shit, we fucking do. That's why it's all men until it's no men, and it's all white people until it's no white people.
Yeah,
thanks for jumping in, Rusty.
Deny that. Yeah, for you guys to deny is the point. Well, what you only talk about racism because you're being racist.
Yeah, stop being racist. Stop breaking bread with racists. You don't like it, then don't give us obvious reason. So then don't be retruthing what Trump said about Juneteenth, because that's what it was. Stop doing it. I appreciate you, buddy. Talk to you later.
Brother. Talk to you later.
Peace. Again, the numbers don't fucking lie. All right, let's go back to Antifa Friday, since that's what it is. Okay. Just as a reminder, friend, thank you for those of you who are contributing so far. We are attempting to kind of just try to change up the way that we approach fundraising. I've said this before, our community, one of the things that I am the most proud of the community that we've created here and the loyalty of our viewers and our subscribers and everyone else is that we've developed an opportunity to really try to help people. And we've done it. We've helped people publicly. We've helped people privately. I've helped people privately times that I probably shouldn't have, but I've done it anyways. This isn't about me. It's about the greater good. So we felt like $1 a day because, if we have 1,000 people in here at times, I have 110,000 followers, $1 a day here and there can really go a long way as we attempt to help people. There are folks in our communities that can't pay their bills, are going to lose their house, or, they can't put food on the table. Little things like that, 50 people donating $1, that feeds a family for a night. It's that kind of stuff. So that's why we're doing it. So you'll see the $1 a day kind of going forward. We appreciate you. If you want to continue to support the channel, best way to do that for me is either through the $1 a day or through my pay apps, which are above my head, or subscribing, or items purchased from the merch store. By the way, this is the last day that we're gathering funds to help support our friends Brett and Nikki as we're trying to get them out of Uvalde, Texas. So in the merch store, which is at Facts HQ, the first item you'll see is a t-shirt that says "The sound of children screaming has been removed." Any and all sales of those shirts between last Friday and the end of today, all that money will go to Brett and Nikki as we attempt to help try to get them the hell out of Uvalde. All right. A little bit more sound. I found this. This is interesting. There's a filmmaker in Tehran talking about the situation in Iran. And like I've said from the very beginning, I think it's really, really important for all of us to separate the Israeli government, Bibi Netanyahu in particular, from the Israeli citizens, from the H group, from Palestinians, and from the citizens and residents of Iran, the populace, the public, the people, from their government. So with that being said, this is just a little bit of interesting sound from a filmmaker in Tehran and what he's noticed.
Okay, so we have exclusive video tonight. It's from actually inside Tehran, which is incredible. It comes from a filmmaker, and he included a message to us that I want to read in full for you. He writes, "I am Poria Nouri, an Iranian documentary filmmaker based in Tehran. As I write this note, it's been a week since our country was invaded. For the past week, the Israeli military's attacks have disrupted the lives of Iranian citizens." And he continues to say, "Here in Tehran, I hear and witness numerous explosions throughout the day and night. I wake up each morning to the shaking of walls and windows in my home. The smoke from the bombings is visible in the skies above the city. Now, some residents of Tehran are leaving for other parts of Iran in search of safety for themselves and their families. Meanwhile, the scope of Israel's attacks is not limited to Tehran. I constantly see images on social media showing bombings and destruction in other cities." And then he says this, "While the shadow of war looms over the lives of Iranian citizens, the solidarity among the people of Iran has grown stronger than ever. On Instagram, people from across the country are inviting Tehran residents to stay in their homes to keep them safe. The fate of this war in the Middle East remains uncertain and unclear. We are living each moment in fear and anxiety. And then he concludes, as an Iranian citizen, I call on the world's media not to close their eyes to the evident truth and the initiator of this unjust war, the Israeli regime, and to pay attention to the plight of the Iranian people now caught in the midst of war, people who deserve a peaceful, normal life, yet their lives have now been thrown into chaos. Now, Nuri shared all of that with us, and that video is incredible because there is so little video coming out of Iran. We do thank him for sharing his thoughts, being willing to share his name, and wanting the world to see his video.
I think it's great. And Anaka needs to point this out, and I was going to talk about this as well. Israel is currently attacking, call it whatever you want, but yeah, attacking works. Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, Iran, Yemen, and Iraq. So who's the threat? Again, the Israeli government. And I like that story because it talked about under normal conditions, a lot of people within the country, much like our country, right? Under normal conditions, those communities may never have gotten along. And I've talked about this before. This is a great book I read. It's called Tribes. And they, and if you've heard the story before, I'm sorry, I'll make it quick, but it talks about the backdrop of one element of this story was talking about how we as human beings are tribal, right? We tend to surround ourselves in general with people that are like-minded as best we can. We find common interests, whether it be hobbies, book clubs, whatever it might be. So they use the backdrop to make this argument during the Blitzkrieg in London, where London has its various factions, much like large cities do, right? Large populations do. So those factions, in many cases, despised each other and hated each other. It would never get along. It would never compromise on anything until their city was under attack every night by the Luftwaffe. So these communities all went underground in bomb shelters and air raid shelters and things like that. And they formed a new tribe. They were forced to get along because of survival, right? But as soon as the Blitzkrieg stopped, what happened? They came out from their own tribe, and then they went back to their own tribes again. So there's a lesson to be learned here, I think, right? That oftentimes tragedy unites communities. Now, the question here in our nation, right, is that we've seen tragedy after tragedy, and we've seen the opposite happen here. Like I think about school shootings in general, right? I think about innocent lives being lost, and I hear thoughts and prayers. And that's become divisive in our nation. Like developed nations around the world generally would become collaborative and form a new community in support of the horrible state of affairs. Natural disasters, right? Natural disasters have become divisive, right? Imagine that. Imagine that. Now, I am a firm believer in identity becomes part of the problem, meaning that if you had no way of knowing a person's political affiliation, if you had no way of knowing how they voted, if you had no idea knowing what their background is, if there was no discernible characteristics that said this person was this or that person was that by and large, we would lean in to help people. Human nature. I'll have to throw the race card because there are people in our country that would certainly, who look like me, who would certainly drive by a car filled with people of color. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about it. If that makes you feel uncomfortable, I'm sorry, but that's the reality. But by and large, I think that's why, let me put it this way. If that's not true, then what the fuck are we all fighting for at the end of the day, right? But seriously, yeah, because you're right. Thank you, Jen, because our system values profit over human life. That's the statement of the day. That's our system. We value, again, the individual nature of a conservative voter. They vote for themselves. Listen to what they say when you're listening to them in lives, right? Well, in my opinion, all I know is my wallet was better off 6 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever the number was. I've never spoken that way. I just don't think that way. I don't, because I'm just a radical woke leftist, apparently. Progressive. But here's the problem, though, right? When we get into situations like this, if if Donald Trump is going into this, and I believe this is part of the strategy, he believes the country will unite. And I just don't see how that's possible. Because although, let me rephrase that. I don't think the country will unite like he thinks it will, or that he thinks it might. Because there's a lot of people on the right that are absolutely disgusted by the rhetoric levied towards Iran. Is it Dave Smith, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, right? People like that are just so disgusted by this line. Marjorie Taylor Greene, all these people have been saying, if you take us down this road, this is completely against everything that we talked about. This is not America first. This is not make America great again. What is this? So that might bring groups together that we would never have expected. Sadly, though, if I agree, I have to get the soap out. I agree with MTG when she says this isn't America first. Yeah, we know. You're going to lie to us about blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, we know. We've been telling you that for a long time, but she's been critical. So we find ourselves in this space right now where he believes that, in the past, from a patriotic perspective, countries under threat, we unite. Country was attacked 9/11. A lot of the country united. A lot, not all. Wasn't as much social media then, that's for sure. Right? We certainly know that there were lots of people that didn't want anything to do with what was going on. Those loud voices. Same with some of the same no nuke brigade from the 70s and 80s, right? Right? So he's risking everything on this. But there's the end game is that he's doing this to enrich himself. Period. I just want to see if I can find that really one telling piece of sound. And then I'm going to close with something really interesting that I thought was really kind of cool, actually. But let me see if I can find it real first. Everybody, if you guys could just help us round out the day. Love to get a few more subscribers if you can. Don't forget about our gifting goal. I don't need to talk about that. That's crazy. I covered that one. I covered that. We know that he and Tulsi are at odds. We know about that. We know about that one. Do I have it? That's the Tucker piece. We played. This is the one I want to play. I'll play the one with Tucker because I think that's the one is the most telling. Because Tucker's been all about simping for Trump, right? We know how big a fan Tucker is of Trump, although they've had their differences over the years, right? Okay. This is what I was talking about. This is how we can find cracks in the armor. Okay.
I don't know the population.
Here you go.
I don't run, by the way. I don't know the population at all. No, I don't know the population. You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple? How many people live in Iran? 92 million. Okay. Yeah. How could you not know that? I don't sit around memorizing population tables. Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government. Why is it relevant whether it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant? Because if you don't know anything about the country... I didn't say I don't know anything about... Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran? They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay, it's not even... You don't know anything about Iran. So, okay, I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran. You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government. You're the one who claims... You don't know anything about the country. No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the one who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad. They're trying to murder Trump. Yes, I do. Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. If you really believe that... We're carrying out military strikes today. You said Israel was. Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them. Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity. No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them. You just said we were. Damn. We are supporting Israel. High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening. Okay.
Yep. And this is MTG. MTG sat down with Matt Gaetz on his little podcast, and she had something very similar to say. So this is MTG.
Congresswoman Green, you have been a voice of reason and America First policy.
I'm sorry, wait, what? I'm sorry. I don't think I caught that the first time. Did Matt Gaetz just say that Marjorie Three Toes has been a voice of reason? Okay.
Tell us how you see this conflict between Israel and Iran.
Matt, I see it just as you do, and you laid that out so well. That's the America First message, but it's also the truth that the American people have woken up to. We've watched for decades propaganda news. I'll call out Fox News and the New York Post. Woo! They're known to be the neocon network news.
Whoa!
We have propaganda news on our side just like the left does.
Whoa!
And the American people have been brainwashed into believing that America has to engage in these foreign wars in order for us to survive.
What?
And it's absolutely not true.
Wow. And then one more. And then one more. This is Steve Bannon with Tucker Carlson.
By popular acclaim. That's not like their viewer surveys. Like, we need a lot more Mark Levin. Less Jesse Waters, more Mark Levin. Mark Levin! What they're doing is what they always do, which is just turning up the propaganda hose to full blast and just trying to, knock elderly Fox viewers off their feet and make them submit.
So we went through this. We went through this exercise the other day, right, where we talked about how the power of propaganda and where it comes from, and how the news is manipulating. And we used I did the breakdown of you compared news networks and run them through the media bias fact checker. And again, the criticism that I got after that was crazy. Some people saying, you think the media bias fact checker that's totally neutral by design ain't left leaning? Yeah, because it is. But when you have such some of the loudest voices, and thank you, Francis, just as a reminder, Tucker does get that Russian money. We'll keep that in mind. We'll keep that out there. But when you see MAGA voices, strong America First, a MAGA voice like MTG and like Matt Gaetz and like Tucker, right, being super critical of this, because this is a big one. This is what none of them wanted. None of them wanted this. In fact, they went to the mat saying, we don't want to be in wars, blah, 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 blah. And here we are. So for them to try to keep any of their political reputation, whatever little they have left, they're stuck now. They are stuck, right? Which I think is interesting to see. And we've talked about this before, and I don't know where this is going to, I don't know where this is going to lead, but when you have such clear divide in the party now, we've always talked before about how the Republican Party managed to stay in line. I've seen cracks, right? Which basically became the Tea Party when this happened before, but it's different now. It feels really different to me because you've got this true, as they'll call it, America First people like MTG, like Steve Bannon, like Tucker, fake as it is. They're the ones that don't believe that we should be spending it. That we should be spending any money at all on foreign wars. We shouldn't be sending any more money to Ukraine, whatever it might be. There's that group, right? Then there's the tech group. Then there's the tech bros, right? There's the Elons. There's the Peter Thiels. There's the deep pocketed donors who want an oligarchy. And then you've got MAGA, right? You've got MAGA who claim to be in support of the America First agenda and in support of the tech bros. So where do they go? Because the first two do not align. Especially the tech bros, they're like, fuck, I'm going to invest in the military-industrial complex, and I'm going to cheer on this war. I'm going to expand my portfolio by X-fold. Because that $1 trillion defense budget that we have now that's being debated in the Senate goes to $2 trillion or more. Okay? And they're going to be like, let's go. Let's go. War makes money, friends. War makes money. There's no denying that. And then you've got MAGA. You've got the thumper, red hat wearing, truck nut driving, American flag flying, pterodactyl Trump riding T-shirt faction of the Republican Party that is all in on Trump's message about he promised me no new wars. He promised me the price of eggs would be cheaper. He promised me my gas would be going down. All these kinds of things. And none of that is happening. So from a political strategy perspective, there is no strategy. This is strictly about enrichment at all costs. They're going to do it as quickly and as quickly as possible. They're going to try to change the way the value of the dollar. They're going to expand access to stablecoin, to crypto, to that entire world. They're going to flip the entire thing upside down. They're going to leave a big pile of shit in a bag burning on the front steps of the Capitol, and they're going to go off and they're going to be enriched and they're going to be lining their pockets, and everybody connected to the administration is going to make the same claim. Marco Rubio knows what he's doing. Marco Rubio is not stupid. He's probably the most, of all the people in the cabinet, he's the smartest one. Okay? He knows exactly what he's doing. He knows that he is now leveraged. He knows that he cannot speak out against the administration, because if he does, then he loses his path as well. He loses what's left of his reputation. And yeah, so we're in it now. Good morning, Britt. How are you today? Hello, Britt. Are you there? Britt, are you there? I guess not. Okay. But that's so we're sort of stuck in this spot right now. But we'll watch it happen. We're gonna watch it. We need 2 more subs for our sub baby, guys. We're gonna watch it happen. I don't know if there's any. Is there another? So then you've got, let's see, those 3 groups. We've got the True on America First, who are elected members of Congress, who are voices publicly, right? Who are like, no, I'm not supporting this shit. You've got the techno sector with the Peter Thiels, the Elons, the broligarchs that are going to enrich themselves, the corporate donors. And then you've got the the blue collar, red hat wearing MAGA. And there's probably another group. There's probably the less vocal, I voted for a tax break group of Republicans, right? That are just going to ignore all the human rights violations and the unconstitutionality and voting against their daughters' bodies, et cetera, because they only care about their pocket. So there's probably 4 groups now, right? So which one wins? The answer is none of them win. They all lose because there's no longer a coalition. They're not all They're not all riding behind America First, Make America Great Again. Because now it's, oh yeah, the evangelicals too. There's them. Well, there's a little bit of them in every group. So there's like 5. It's like 5 groups. Right? So I don't know how it's going to shake out. I really don't know. But I think it's just an interesting phenomenon that based on he wins the election by appealing to all those groups in a different way. He wins the election with the evangelicals because he comes out against the trans community and the gay community and women's rights to their body. He wins them over. He wins over the tech autocrats because he offered, in the billionaire group, because he offers them more tax breaks. He wins the hardcore, mouth-breathing, red hat-wearing white man in America because he leans in on their racist and their bigoted tendencies towards immigration. He highlights the America First folks because he doesn't want us spending any more money overseas. Doesn't want any more money spent on foreign wars. So that's how he got all of them in their coalition, right? So now each one of them is impacted by, in the first one, how many days is it? Like 130 days? Each one of them is now impacted because we know that the economy is in, well, the only group that's going to be affected positively are the rich because they're the ones that are going to benefit. Shocker. They're always the one that stands. They're going to ride till you die. But that's part of the strategy to get J.D. Vance in the White House, right? The mouth breathers are like, I'm fucking losing. I lost my job. Wait a minute. I've lost my farm workers. Wait, what? My prices are going up. Holy shit. Gas isn't cheaper. Holy shit. So you're losing them. The America First folks, as we're spending more money on foreign wars, you're losing them. The evangelicals, they might ride it, but they're going to get hard. It's going to get harder and harder and harder to defend it, especially when the Epstein files come out and they see his name all over it. Although, will they even give a fuck? I don't know. So the evangelicals are blind to it because, of course, they think that he's a Christian. It's just wild, right? Yeah, your big, beautiful child tax credit that you're not going to get, TJ, because you didn't read the bill. Have you read it, my guy? Have you read it? Do you know what it says? Do you know what the Senate wants to do? They want to change it again. Are you aware of that? Do you know that no tax on tips only affects cash tips and 95% of tips are on a credit card? Did you know that? Did you know that expires in 2 years? Did you know that overtime laws are about to be changed? That companies don't want to pay overtime anymore? So of course there's going to be no tax on overtime because it's not going to exist. Pay attention, man. This is what I'm talking about. Pay attention. Anyway, it's been quite a week, friends. Did I have one more thing I wanted to cover? I think I had one more thing I wanted to do before I let you go, before you let me go, or whatever it is. Do I still have it? Maybe. I might have gotten rid of it. I might have just kicked it to the curb. I was going to read that thing about Elizabeth Warren, but I'll say that for a different day. We'll do that next week. I think I got it all covered. Oh, let's do this. Let's just close out today with our conversation about how everything's for sale with just a breakdown of the Trump phone. Okay? Because this is, not only is it comical, but it's just a blatant fucking grift that is just so obvious, and I just don't know how people can be so stupid to buy it.
We can do it cheaper, we can do it better, and eventually all the phones can be built in the United States of America. We have to bring manufacturing back here, and so our ethos is, build for Americans, by Americans, do it cheaper, do it better. Monthly plans, $47 a month, which we kind of thought was fun and cool. Unlimited calling, unlimited text, over 100 countries around the world.
So, eventually, it's not going to work. You can pre-order it for $100. They're going to take the money, just like every other scam that he's ever run. He's going to promote it. Suckers are going to buy it. Nothing's going to get delivered. And he'll take the money and run. And people will be like, what the fuck? My phone doesn't work. So, for sale. And sadly, you folks are just going to lose. Anyway, in some cases, not all. It depends on how the IRS treats them. Yeah, Andrew. Yeah, again, it's so easy. I'm not even bothered with you because you're just obsessed with me. It's sad, Andrew. Maybe get a life. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Just as another reminder, any opportunity you have to help a friend, to help a neighbor, I think it's a really great cause to try to help people. We've built our sort of reputation here about trying to expand our community, to help folks where we can. So you're going to see the $1 a day. So we're just going to ask folks, if you got $1 you can spare, some spare change, you can donate a variety of ways. My PayApps is probably the best spot. We'll track all this. And when we do give money out to folks, oftentimes we do it under the cover of darkness. A lot of people don't want us, not that we're hiding anything, but folks don't want the publicity. And we'll honor we will honor that for friends. And we'll do that for people that we don't know. We want to continue to do it. It's something that's really, really important to me. It's not been easy for me lately, to be perfectly honest, but I will always find the time and the capacity to make sure that we're helping others, because I'm a privileged white guy in America, and I've got every advantage I could ever imagine. So I want to try to use that privilege to try to help as best I can. Doesn't mean that I don't need the help now and then, because we're all in those positions. But I want to thank, and again, Brooke, happy belated birthday again to you, sister. We love you, my friend. We love you very, very much. Who are we going to raid, guys? Who's live right now that we can send some love to? Let's go, Monica. Let's go say hi to Monica, okay? So Monica, everybody knows her. We love her. I don't think we're going to do, what do you guys think about Facts After Dark tonight? Is anybody interested? If we did something, it'd have to be 3 weeks in a row, which is fine. We can do that. Yeah, it's just Monica. Does anybody want Facts After Dark tonight? Anybody? I don't know. I'm not sure yet, guys. I'll let you know. It depends on how it goes, but we might, because we always try to have a little bit of fun. Anyway, just Monica. Everybody says yes. Everybody says yes. Everybody says yes. Likely, then I will, because I'm here. I'm the common man helping the common man. But anyway, we got you, Sam. We know that. All right, friends. I love you very, very much. Please subscribe on YouTube if you haven't yet. Please visit all of our socials and become a subscriber. I love you guys. Go say hi to Monica for us. And mods, thank you for everything. As